Excuse me. Welcome into the High Noon Rant. I'm Pugs Moran. We do this every day at noon, 12 p.m. It's current events, hot topics, headlines, whatever it is people are talking about. I give it to you in a talk radio style that doesn't really exist anywhere else. We're not political. We don't give a shit how you voted. I've got a theory on this show, and I'll share it with you now if you'll indulge. I believe that 15% of people on the right are nuts and 15% of people on the left are nuts, and that leaves 70% of us who are normal. 70%. I can do business with 70% of you people out there. And hopefully you're the people who are tuning into this show every day, Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Terrible cough. I don't know what's going on with me here. Hi, Byron. Grandpa Asshole. That's his name. Grandpa Asshole's first in the chat room that I can see. Then we've got Peter. Hi, Pete. Excuse me. Clear my throat. Chat room. Gather in the chat room. We've got same people hanging out in the chat room every day for the past 3 years. It's absolutely magnificent. I love it. But we want more people. It's a fun hang. We just talk about shit. We just talk about, I'm going to give you a nice wide variety of all the things that people are discussing on this day. We do the show is it unfurls? I'm very uncomfortable with the word unfurls. I'm not even sure that's a real word. Furls? Unfurls? Do you furl something? Hey, furl that for me. So unfurls. The show unfolds. Put it that way. Show unfolds in 4 quarters. Easily digestible quarters. Independent segments that, when taken a 30,000-foot view of, become one seamless show. Quarter 1 is called Antecedently on This Day. That's a look back at all the day's history. It's just a reinvention of the wheel. That's all. Quarter 2 is birthdays. You know what that is. Just people having birthdays. Quarter 3 is deads. People who died on this day. If you died on this day, we're going to take a look at what you did, and we're going to decide whether you went to heaven or hell. Then we get into quarter 4. That's the bulk of the show. That's everything that people are talking about today. It's the big news, the hot topics, the trends, the headlines, the buzz. Who's this? I don't know. That CNN is unfolding. I guess I don't watch CNN enough. They're always like throwing some new chick at me. It's like, oh, who's this now? She have any credibility? I don't know. She looks 24. That's me. I'm an optimistic cynic. Yeah, I know. I'm a complicated man. The entire show is performed by yours truly in a stream of consciousness style. What is that? That means no breaks, no stops, no interruptions, no commercials, no songs. Occasionally, I'll have to do something concerning the dog. But that's it. I'm just free flowing with my thoughts on all the things that today is about. Before we get into the show proper, though, I do have to say, a bit of a precarious situation has unfurled. See what I did there? The dog, the dog. At some point today, the dog will make an appearance. She is CeeLo. She is a Hooly Booly. That is a breed. That is a hybrid breed of a Catahoula and an American Bulldog. And she's nuts, and she's also awesome. And she's also right now sleeping at my feet. She was already sleeping. When I sat down here in the cockpit to start the show, she was already sleeping here underneath where I sit. My point is this. At any moment now, she could be aroused from her sleep. Is that a word? Aroused? Arisen? That's not the word. That's not how you use that word. At any moment, she could be jostled. No, that's not even violent enough. I could kick her in the face at any moment is what I'm trying to say. Not on purpose, accidentally, but that's a dog's life. That's a dog. Dogs live on the edge. Her nose is resting on my heel. I've got the hiccups now. Are you happy? Look what you did. Sometimes I get hiccups. If you're new and you're not, because this show doesn't grow, you'll know that I get hiccups from time to time. Anyway, the dog is like just, living life on the edge. She's not worried about being suddenly awoken because she got kicked in the face. She does that when I sleep. She sleeps at the end of the bed. For some reason, she wants to use my foot as a pillow. She doesn't realize that sometimes I might violently turn at night and kick her right in the head. It's happened before. My kid, my 15-year-old son, and by the way, now I'm just trying to beat the hiccups. So I'm just going to talk about stuff until the hiccups go away. My 15-year-old son, he said something to me the other day. We were walking the dog. I love these kinds of questions. My kid, I don't know. Well, I got one kid. I got one 15-year-old I hang around with. So maybe I got a really low expectation of what conversation with a 15-year-old should be. Or my kid's a genius. I don't know. Like I said, I only hang around one 15-year-old. So we're walking, and my kid goes, he looks at me and he goes, "Hey, do you think we saw a dead squirrel?" That's what it was. We saw a dead squirrel. We don't know how it happened. It was flat. Maybe car. And my kid turns to me and he goes, "Hey, do you think animals know of their own mortality?" And that's how he said it. He said it like, "Do you think they know of their own mortality?" And I was like, huh? That's interesting. That's a very 40-year-old way of putting it. And so we had this conversation. And I think we both came down on the side of no, animals have no idea that they could die at any moment. They have no idea. That's why so many of them are just dead on the side of the road. There you go. The conversation I had with my kid. Hiccups are still there. All right, let's say hi to some people in the chat room here. We've got Peter in the chat room. We've got me in the chat room. April is in the chat room. Chuckles is in the chat room. Hold on, let me make the chat room bigger so I can say hi to everybody. Joel, of course. Adam is here. We keep going back. My screen is too. Anyway, hey, the game's all here. Byron says that's really the only thing that separates us from the animals is that we understand that life is precious, and at least some of us do. Some of us do. Dogs just live in the moment. Like whatever is happening in the moment. Like here's what I think. Here's what I think are the two things that dogs are constantly thinking about. Okay? At least our dog here, CeeLo. Here are the two things I think she's constantly thinking about. One, do I need to fight this person? like I think my dog is like, is this a threat? Like, right? Okay, so that's the first thing I think all dogs think of. Is this a threat? And then the second thing is, where's my next meal coming from? That's it. I think, and that's why I think a dog, no matter what, a dog could eat their entire bowl of food, but then if you start eating a Big Mac 5 minutes later, that dog's going to be like, I'll take some of that. Even if they're not hungry, they're like, well, it's food. I'm not going to turn food down because I'm a dog, and my ancestors would go 2-3 days without food, so I should probably eat the Big Mac if that's being... Anyway, that's all I think dogs think about. They live in the moment. Everything is in the moment. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning, and if you wake your dog up and decide that you just want to go nuts and start playing and zoomies and all that, that dog will be down for it. They just live in the moment. So yeah, I don't think dogs have any sort of understanding of mortality. There you go. And guess what we did? We beat the hiccups. And Mama B is in the chat room. Cam is here. All right, let's get started. First, before we do that, we do have to mention, I know we just came out of a big, heavy, ham-fisted pledge week, but the show does run on your tips. So, the tips that come in on non-pledge week weeks are also very important, and we appreciate that. And this show runs on your tips, and it has run that way for the past 3 years, and I appreciate this. So anything and everything is always appreciated. Today, we have an executive producer. We do, we from every day, we like to award the title of executive producer to the person on the previous show who tipped the most. And that today goes to our boy who I haven't seen in the chat room, Jeff B. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. If you want to be tomorrow's executive producer, please help out and drop a little something in the chat. In the Cash App or the Venmo. And you too can be like Jeff B., today's executive producer. Hiya, Bill. Okay, just making sure I say hi to everybody in the chat room. What is today? Okay, it's the 13th. Thursday. You know, it's that spooky Thursday, the 13th. Let's get started. It's the High Noon Rant with me, Pugs Moran, a stream of consciousness on all the day's hot topics, headlines, and current events. Today is the 13th day of June, year of our Lord, 2024. June 13th, I'll have you know, is the 165th day of the year. There's 201 more of these remaining until New Year's. So get those plans started. Remember I told you about the 4 quarters? Let's get them started with antecedently on this day. These are just things that I've cherry-picked throughout history, things that have happened on this day. On this day, antecedently, in the year 1774, Rhode Island becomes the first of Britain's North American colonies to ban the importation of slaves. 1774. Let's hear it for the good men. I would say women, but women didn't have any rights. 1774. What are we talking about? Let's hear it for the good men of Rhode Island. The good white men of Rhode Island, who in 1774 went, slaves, this is immoral. This is, I know it makes life easier, but this is immoral. 1774. Still a part of the British colonies. And they're like, yeah, this is not a good look for us. So, you know. I know. We all find ourselves needing to defend our grandfather from 1975. But 200 years before that, the men of Rhode Island got together and went, yeah, slavery, bad. Duh. It's not like people didn't know it wasn't bad. Antecedently on this day in 1886, a fire devastates much of Vancouver, British Columbia. You know how I love my city fire stories? He's always making me mad. Oh, screw you, Vancouver, and your stupid fire. I was born and raised in Chicago. This is why I'm so angry about this, because we brand ourselves as the city that burnt down and rebuilt. In my whole life growing up, I thought that made us special. Turns out every city in the world has had some sort of massive, devastating fire, and the Chicago fire really ain't that special. But doesn't everybody know how the Chicago fire started? Isn't that different? Doesn't that make us different? Like, who knows how this fire in Vancouver started on this day? 1886. The Great Fire of Vancouver. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. There's no legend about a cow kicking over a lantern and burning an entire city down. Of course, that's not true either. Chicago fire wasn't started by Mrs. O'Leary's cow. It was started by a drunk named Pegleg Sullivan, and he blamed it on Mrs. O'Leary because she was a widow and had no men to stand for her. Antecedently on this day in 1927, Charles Lindbergh got himself one of them there ticker tape parades down Fifth Avenue in New York City. And he's probably one of them dudes who called it Jew York City because Lindbergh was bad. He was a bad man. We overlooked all the bad man stuff about Lindbergh. Oh, I don't know, like his buddy, his good pal, Adolf Hitler. Yeah, that's right. Lindbergh was friends with Adolf Hitler. Like friends. Like he's my friend. Like sometimes when Adolf is in a jam, he calls me American icon. Charles Lindbergh. Okay, what the fuck? He sat in a plane longer than anyone had before. That's what Charles friggin' Lindbergh did. Screw you, Charles Lindbergh. One of the great lies of this great nation of ours. The canonization of Charles Lindbergh. Okay, what else do we got here? Antecedently on this day, year of our Lord, 1966, this is interesting. This is in 1966. So, I mean, I never thought about this until I found this little nugget today. 1966. This is the year that the Supreme Court ruled that the police must inform suspects of their Fifth Amendment rights. 1966. Of course, this was the case Miranda versus the state of Arizona. That's why we call them Miranda rights. And everything we see in TV, we see it in movies, maybe even if we've been unfortunate, we've experienced it in our real life. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to representation. You have the right to whatever. I don't know. I'm not a criminal. But this is why, and I've always been interested in this. I've noticed this when I was younger. When you watch old movies of like Dragnet or whatever, they just arrest people. And then like I would watch modern stuff and they don't arrest, they don't just arrest people. It's you have the right to remain silent. And that's because they didn't have it before 1966. You didn't have to read anybody their rights. Which is really just, again, the reading of the Miranda rights is really just performative. You either understand your rights as a citizen in this country or you don't. It's not like you're going to be hearing it for the first time and go, do you have any questions? And then you're like, no, I have no questions whatsoever about the way the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution was written. If it's the first time you're hearing it, you're probably going to have some questions. It's just a performative thing. We told him, Your Honor. We told him his rights. Yeah, but did he understand them? He's a stupid criminal. Moving on. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. It's a thing, but it is. Let's not kid ourselves. It's performative. It's for plausible deniability. Your Honor, we told him his rights. That's all that is. Antecedently on this day in 1977, convicted Martin Luther King assassin James Earl Ray is recaptured. Hurrah! Remember we talked about this the other day. This is the wildest thing ever. The guy who killed Martin Luther King escaped prison. What? That shit only happens in movies. Could you imagine? Well, again, this is where I always get hicked up in my stream of consciousness rant on this particular story. I always get to the point where I go, could you imagine today if, I don't know, let's say a super high profile prisoner, let's just say, and then I go, and then I think, I'm like, well, Jeffrey Epstein hung himself. He was super high profile. So maybe that's just a, bird of a different feather kind of a situation. Like my idea that super high profile criminals are kept under lock and key and they're watched. Apparently that ain't true because as we discussed a couple of days ago, James Earl Ray, the guy who shot Martin Luther King, just walked out of prison and went to England, like got all the way to England. He was arrested today. On this day, they caught him. They're like, well, you ain't getting far. Well, he got far. He just didn't get long. He got far. He didn't get long. 3 days later, James Earl Ray is recaptured. Let's see here. Antecedently on this day in 2005, a jury acquits pop singer Michael Jackson of his charges for allegedly sexually molesting a child in 1993. Hurrah! I wanna rock with you. I don't know, the whole Michael Jackson thing. I don't know. Look, here's what's undeniable about Michael Jackson. 1, banging tunes, Michael Jackson. Hey. My whole separate the art from the artist, it should really be called the Michael Jackson rule because that's where it all started. I don't know that I was fully committed to the concept of separating art that I enjoy from the bizarre hooliganism of the artist who created it. Okay, so I think Michael Jackson is really where this whole thing started for me. So anyway, yeah, he was acquitted, but even being acquitted, we're all like, yeah, but he's so weird. That's the undeniable thing about Michael Jackson. He's an undeniable talent. One of the greats that there ever was. Couldn't take your eyes off him. Every song that he dropped was like, did you hear the new Michael? I mean, he was a thing. He was a thing. He was a force. Undeniable. It's also weird. Also weird as hell, man. Like, just why you gotta be so weird? Like, he sort of set the bar. There are a lot of weird pop stars in the 80s. Boy George was weird. Madonna was weird. Prince was weird. But man, Elton John was weird. Elton John was weird back in the 70s. There was always weird. Bowie was weird. There were weird pop stars. But Michael Jackson really set the bar at a whole new level. And that's why whenever you want to throw these things, these horribly disturbing charges at these pop stars, their level of weirdness really does come into play as to how the court of public opinion will judge you. Like if Michael hadn't been so weird all those years, wouldn't we have been more likely to be like, they're just after his money? But we couldn't get there with Michael. Because it was always, but he tried to buy the Elephant Man bones and he's got a permanent carnival in his front yard to lure children. This is not looking good, Mike. It was on this day. The jury acquitted him. Jury also acquitted OJ. I don't know. But man, oh man. You put on the Thriller album at a party, I'm going to stick around for a couple of songs. Born on this day, or not born on this day, I'm sorry. Antecedently on this day in 2015. Now, I don't remember this. I don't remember that. I remember the other one. I think the other one occurred in July. But on this day in 2015, a man opens fire at policemen outside the police headquarters in Dallas, Texas, while a bag containing a pipe bomb is also found. He was later shot dead by police. Now, this isn't the El Centro. Remember the El Centro situation? Oh, my God, you guys. I don't want to go too much into that because that's coming up. The anniversary of that is going to be next month. But this was a different one? Like, was El Centro 2016 and this was before that? I don't know. Anyway, antecedently on this day, that occurred here in Dallas. A man opened fire at the police headquarters there. The police headquarters, which, you don't have to be from Dallas to know the police headquarters in Dallas, because it was, of course, famously no, wait a second. Isn't it City Hall? RoboCop. Remember the futuristic police station in RoboCop? That was actually Dallas City Hall. I don't know. I'm confused now. We're going to move on. Let's get into quarter two. It's birthdays. They say it's their birthday. Born on this day, 1926, Paul Lynde. There were three dudes when I was growing up. Three dudes who were obviously not like any of the dudes that I had ever, been exposed to. And by that, I mean uncles and grandpas and mom boyfriends, men, men who worked, cops, a lot of cops, firemen, plumbers, working men. That's pretty much all I was exposed to. But then I'd go on the TV and I'd see people like Liberace. Seemed a little different. See people like Charles Nelson Riley. Seemed a little different. Paul Lynde, our birthday boy. Seemed a little different. Loved Paul Lynde. My grandma. In fact, I remember one of the funniest arguments now. And my grandma and grandpa did nothing but fight. They were Edith and Archie Bunker. They were the real human embodiment of those two characters from TV. Okay, so one of the funniest fights now that I remember my grandma and grandpa was what we were watching Hollywood Squares. It was probably like 6:30 in the evening. We were probably eating dinner. It's a little black and white TV on top of a broken color TV there in the living room kitchen. We're eating in the kitchen. We're watching Hollywood Squares. And Paul Lynde, our birthday boy, he was famous for being the center square in the Hollywood Squares. And he was hysterical. He was funny, man. That's why he was the center square. But he was also, a little different as a guy. And I remember my grandma commenting that he was attractive. Like there was some situation where my grandma looked at Paul Lynde and went, "Oh, I just love him." And then I remember my grandpa going, "He ain't interested in you, Bernie." That was her name. And I was like, "Well, huh? What's that? What's this about? Something weird's going on with grandma and grandpa. I'm gonna pay attention." And my grandma shot back, "You think everyone's a gay blade." I don't even know what a gay blade was. I'm like, gay blade? And then my grandpa said, "Oh, for Christ's sake, you may as well be wearing a dress." Point is this. Paul Lynde's presence on TV was one of my first introductions to gay men. I didn't know what it was, but he was obviously a gay man, and he was in the 70s. And, there's something to be said for the way... I don't want to say that nobody knew Paul Lynde or Liberace or Charles Nelson Riley were gay, because apparently my grandpa did, but there was just this deniability. People either were like, "Yeah, he's gay, whatever." And that was my grandpa's attitude in 1975. My grandpa was uncomfortable with homosexuality, okay? He went through World War II and the Depression. I'll cut him some slack. He's a man of his era. He was uncomfortable with it. It wasn't the same way it is now. He'd probably be fine with it. Hell, my point is, he was fine with Paul Lynde. He didn't have a problem with Paul Lynde being on TV. But he felt the need to point out to his wife that, maybe. Paul Lynde celebrating a birthday today, 1926. He's dead. He died in 1982. I don't know if he died of the AIDS. It's kind of an interesting time for him to have passed away, but And not old either, boy. Not old. How did Paul Lynde die? We got to oh my God. All right, here we go. We're going to look into this, ladies and gentlemen, because now I need to know how Paul Lynde died. All right, let's see here. Death. All right, he struggled with alcohol. His personal life was... Oh, let's get into Paul Lynde's personal life. Let's see how they address that. Despite his campy and flamboyant television persona, Lynde's private life and sexual orientation were not directly acknowledged or discussed on television or in other media. They were around my grandparents' dinner table, I'll tell you that. According to an essay on the website, the Biography Channel from the 1970s, entertainment journalists did not investigate the private lives of performers who were best known as game show regulars. Well, good. And that's the way it should be. Shouldn't be investigating anybody's private life, you fucking vultures. Anyway, they're not going to go. They're not going to go with coming flat out and saying apparently he died not. Here's the death. Okay. Died on January 10th, 1982, after Lynde failed to attend a birthday celebration. His friend, actor model, Paul Barisi. All right. So he didn't show up for something. And the person who had in and out access of famous celebrity Paul Lynde's house was young actor model Paul Barisi. Just say it. Clues were there by today's lens, right? Paul Barisi became concerned. Then Barisi, and another friend, actor Dean Dittman. They couldn't get an answer by the phone and knocking on Lynde's door, so they went into the side entrance to Lynde's home. Surprised it wasn't the back door. Come on, what am I doing here? I'm just having fun. I'm a Gen X guy. What, I can't make gay jokes? I got no beef with the gay man. I got plenty of friends. That's the worst. Plenty of gay friends. Actually, I got so many gay friends that I don't even think of them as gay. That's progress. That's good. Because if I had a gay friend in 1989, you better damn believe that it would be like this soul-defining characteristic. Yeah, he's my gay friend. As I sit here now, I think about it. I'm like, yeah, that dude's gay too. Oh, yeah, she's gay. I got a lot of gay friends. Screw you. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's not like I'm using them as a shield. They're just, you're out in the world in 2024. You're in the real world. You're going to have some gay friends. So how did he die here? It says Lynde was found dead in his bed in the early morning hours. He was 55 years old. 55 years old, 1982, closeted gay man. Probably crazy 70s unprotected sex. I'm just saying. Stories circulated suggesting that Lynde had a visitor at the time of his death who fled the scene. But evidence indicates the stories were false. Lynde regularly activated his house alarm before retiring for the evening. When Barisi broke in, the alarm blared, indicating that Lynde had been alone at the time of his death and that Lynde had died in his sleep. Contrary to other reports that Lynde was found naked, Barisi said not so. Paul was in his pajamas and wearing a robe. The coroner ruled the death was caused by heart attack. Lynde's cremated remains. Okay, heart attack. Okay, all right. So no, that makes sense. So you know what I can do now? I can eliminate the specter of Paul Lynde being an early AIDS casualty because he wasn't sick for a long time. People were like, why didn't he show up to this party? That's how people who die of heart attacks are found dead. Oh my God. Can you believe we just spent that much time on Paul Lynde? Big part of my childhood. All right, let's keep going. Born on this day in 1943, Malcolm McDowell. Another big part of my childhood, boy. I saw Clockwork Orange when I was probably 11, 12 years old. HBO had just come into existence and my mom had it. So I watched all the movies, all the early movies that were on HBO. Breaking Away, Blade Runner, but also Clockwork Orange. Oh my God. You, an 11-year-old, as like an 11-year-old, seeing Malcolm McDowell star in Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange for the first time late at night on cable. I don't know where the hell my mom is. Why are you letting me watch this? Freaked me the hell out. I didn't know what the hell. I've seen Clockwork Orange. Well, look, if you had grabbed 11-year-old me and said, you know that movie you just watched? I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you know that when you're a grown-up, the director who made that freaky, disturbing mess of a film is going to be your favorite director of all time? I've been like, no way! Yeah, I think it was like the first Stanley Kubrick movie I saw. No, not true, because I had already seen The Shining. Yeah. Anyway, Clockwork Orange, man. That is now as a grown-up, I'm like, that is a great film. But as a kid, I just kept watching it because it was always on HBO. I just kept watching it, and it was just very disturbing. Anyway, Malcolm McDowell, I don't care what else he ever did in his career. Every time I saw him in anything from that point forward, I'm like, he's the freaky dude. He's the freaky, weird punk kid from Clockwork. Don't like him. But it turns out I do like him. Malcolm McDowell, born on this day in 1943. Born on this day in 1951, or 1945, I'm sorry, Whitley Strieber. Whitley Strieber is a very cool guy, man. Whitley Strieber was an author. He wrote a whole bunch of books. It was like, he wrote fiction. He was a real author, and he's fairly well known and all that stuff. And then he was trying to work on a book, and he was out at his summer home, like in the middle of the woods, and he got abducted by aliens. Yeah, and he abandoned all that other book writing stuff, and he started writing the book Communion, which is, for anybody who's interested in aliens and all that shit, UFO experiences. Communion by Whitley Strieber is the Bible of that entire movement. It's a fantastic book. They turned it into a movie starring Christopher Walken, and it's okay. The book is so good. And then he would go on to write a whole bunch of other books, about he's the Pope. Whitley Strieber is the Pope of legitimate UFO alien encounter conversation and all of that kind of stuff. That's who he is. He also wrote The Hunger, which was turned into a movie. He wrote Wolfen, which was turned into a movie. Whitley Strieber is the guy who told me that I was abducted. Whitley Strieber is the reason that I got sent to the University of Chicago with some big fancy hypno regression therapy dude who put me in a room all day for like 8 hours and regressed me and, tried to go back and find out if I actually was abducted. Anyway, that's a story for another time that I told. But Whitley Strieber was like, yeah, your story checks out. We should talk more. And we did for a time. Anyway, Whitley Strieber's having a birthday. He's very interesting. He's a very interesting man. Even if you just read his Wikipedia page, you'll be like, yeah, I can see why Pugs thinks he's an interesting man. Born on this day in 1951. Here's two. We're going to rattle them off. Both born in 1951. Umbilical cousins, as we like to call them. Richard Thomas. He's John Boy Walton. He was also really good in The Americans. I don't know if you ever saw The Americans, but he played the leader of the head of the FBI in The Americans. He was good. But also John Boy Walton from the Waltons. Never liked the Waltons. Waltons was lame. Even at like 5 years old, I'm like, this show is lame. Why are they all saying goodnight to each other? Richard Thomas. Happy birthday. Not his fault the show was lame. He was cool in The Americans. Also born on this day in 1951. How about this guy? Stellan Skarsgård. Stellan Skarsgård. You know that name? He's a Swedish actor. He's a great Swedish actor. And if you saw his face, and I'm not going to bore you with it, but if you saw his face, you'd go, oh, yeah, I know that guy, because he is decidedly a that guy actor, Stellan Skarsgård. But here's why I mention him. Because it's not about him. It's about his kids. Holy crap. This dude has produced 1 billion kids, and they're all super cool actors, and they're all in every super cool thing that is made nowadays. So although it's Stellan Skarsgård's birthday, we should also say he's the father of Alexander Skarsgård, who is awesome in everything. First time I saw that dude, I think, was in Generation Kill, the HBO miniseries about the Marines who went into Baghdad first. Generation Kill is excellent. Alexander Skarsgård. Then he played Eric Northman on True Blood. Oh, I'm not even gay, and I'm like, I'd let that vampire bite me. That I'm not gay. I mean, if given my choice, I'd go with Sookie. Let's not kid ourselves. But if that handsome big Viking vampire is available, I mean, I'm gonna be dead anyway. So, Alexander Skarsgård, he's awesome. He's like awesome in everything. He was awesome in Succession as the crazy Swedish billionaire who was fucking with the Succession people. He's great. But then you got the other one. Is it Gustav Skarsgård? He's Loki from Vikings. Remember the show Vikings? No, Floki. He's Floki from Vikings. The historical Viking who built the Viking Raider ships. He's awesome. Then you got Bill Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård. He's in a whole bunch of stuff. He's the hot one right now. He's like got a couple of A-list projects that he's doing. So anyway, happy birthday to you, Stellan Skarsgård, and all your super famous kids. By the way, here's what's funny about it. You look at Alexander Skarsgård. I was telling you about how handsome he is, and I'm not even gay. I'm like, I'm not gay, but maybe I am. Maybe I'm Skarsgård. Maybe I'm Skarsgay. There you go. I'm Skarsgay. I'm also Jason Momoa sexual. So this is all starting to track. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm comfortable in my sexuality. I can look at Jason Momoa and go, yeah, I get why chicks dig that. I wish I could be that, but I ain't ever going to be that. So me sitting here going, he ain't hot, is just, denying what is the reality of the moment. Jason Momoa is hot. I am Jason Momoa sexual. And I'm also Alexander Skarsgård. What can I tell you? Call me what you want. Born on this day. That's a weird part of my stream of consciousness rant that we just came out of, but hey, let's enjoy it. Born on this day in 1953, Tim Allen. Nope. Tim Allen's a piece of POS. Look, rules of the street. I like Tim Allen. I think he's funny. But rules of the street dictate that Tim Allen is a piece of shit. Tim Allen was a coke dealer. Tim Allen was like a dirtbag. What are you doing, dog? What are you doing, dog? Oh, what? Are you hearing this? Back with licking the butt. Oh, we're back to licking the butt. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone who is concerned about my dog's butt flare-up, it's still going. She's still licking the butt. All right. Tim Allen. Tim Allen was a coke dealer. Like a low-level street coke dealer, and he got busted, and he was looking at I don't know how much significant time he was looking at. I think that they can scare you with, looking at 20 years, kid. Anyway, he turned rat on everybody. Still went to prison because apparently he didn't have a good lawyer. But that's the rule of streets. He's a dirtbag coke dealer. Just think about what a dude who dealt coke in 1983 Detroit was like. That's Tim Allen. What are you doing, dog? I'm not just going to sit here while you lick your butt for the next hour. It's a bit distracting. Sorry. Tim Allen, born on this day in 1953. It's funny. I like the grunting. Funny guy. But let's not forget, he was an early 80s coke dealer in Detroit. Not only that, I can make it even worse for you. He was an early 80s comedy club coke dealer. Oh, God. You ever seen his mugshot? He's got like the mustache, and he's like, looks exactly like, a guy that would roofie your girlfriend when you went to the bathroom. All right, moving on. Born on this day, and this, I don't know what happened sometimes to these little angels. They appear, they have their run, and then they go away. And this one's been away for a long time. And based upon how famous she was at one point in her career, the idea that she has completely evaporated for at least 25 years is shocking to me. Today, born on this day in 1962, the lovely Ally Sheedy was born. What? What happened to Ally Sheedy? Ally Sheedy, well, okay, so what I always talk about this, right? I think this is why we maligned Gregory Peck the other day. I was like, there's just not a single Gregory Peck movie that jumps to mind when I hear Gregory Peck. And because of that, I think history will forget you. History ain't going to forget Ally Sheedy because she's the gross girl from Breakfast Club. Every teenager is going to see Breakfast Club has pretty much stood the test of time with teenagers. I am shocked that they haven't tried to ruin it and remake it. But I think the John Hughes people have a thing or two to say about that, because they haven't remade any John Hughes movies. And let me tell you, I bet you Hollywood, at least 3 times over now, 3 different generations of teenagers, Hollywood would have loved to have mined that. But John Hughes was always famous about, no. And now John Hughes is dead. So that's the only reason, I imagine. like why hasn't there been a Weird Science? Think of all the tech innovations that we've had. Why hasn't there been a Breakfast Club remake? Why hasn't there been a Ferris Bueller remake? Anyway, John Hughes, his foundation is very strict about that shit. They're like, nah, we see our films like Frank Capra films. We don't want you guys fucking with them. So anyway, Ali Sheedy was born on this day. I think of her as the gross girl from Breakfast Club. Of course, the one that used her own dandruff. Remember, she did a thing with her dandruff to decorate a picture. She was making a picture that was a winter scene. If you're unfamiliar with Breakfast Club, it's a bunch of kids spending a Saturday in detention. So they're all sitting in a quiet library trying to pass the time. She's painting. She's making a little picture of a winter scene. She needed snow, so she used her own dandruff, and that was fucking gross. And it was disturbing, because up until this point, Ali Sheedy had been a very sexy member of the Brat Pack. All right, so I didn't really want to say the words Brat Pack, because Brat Pack is trending today, and we're going to do a whole thing at the end of the show today about the Brat Pack. But just know, one of the absolute mainstays of the Brat Pack, Ali Sheedy, and she is a mainstay. That's another thing we're going to have to talk about. And I actually decided earlier today that I'm going to do a standalone video on this, because as we said, we're going to be talking about the Brat Pack because there's a new documentary that debuted today on Hulu. So we're going to talk about that. But one of the big questions about the Brat Pack, and I hate this because I see this a lot, because I am the Gen expert. I get very, very territorial when it comes to people, especially younger people, and their hot takes on the Brat Pack. Do you know how many people, like I'll see like a 38-year-old on YouTube doing let's talk about the Brat Pack, and I'm like, no, let's not. You were 3. Okay, you don't remember any of this. And then they start including people in the Brat Pack. They're like, are not Brat, but it's not a Brat Packer. Julia Roberts is not a Brat Packer, or is she? Because I do have a litmus test with are you or are you not in the Brat Pack? And one of the litmus tests says, did Kiefer Sutherland bang you? If Kiefer Sutherland banged you, then you are possibly in the Brat Pack. Because Kiefer Sutherland, although did not appear, see, it's another misnomer about the Brat Pack that we're going to talk about. Everybody thinks that, John Hughes, Brat Pack. No. John Hughes is not Brat Pack. A lot of Brat Pack actors were in John Hughes movies, but my God, there's like 100 Brat Pack movies that have nothing to do with John Hughes. So stop it. It's different. For instance, I'll give you a good example. John Cryer is in the John Hughes universe. John Cryer, above 2.5 Men and all that. John Cryer plays Ducky in Pretty in Pink. He's not a Brat Packer. He's not. He's not a member of the Brat Pack. He's in a John Hughes one, but that doesn't make him a member of the Brat. The Brat Pack was a very specific group of people who partied together, boned each other, and essentially made the film St. Elmo's Fire. There you go. That's the best indication of Brat Pack. It's not a John Hughes movie. St. Elmo's Fire. We'll talk more about the Brat Pack. I got thoughts. There are way too many people being included in the Brat Pack. Julia Roberts, that's another great one. Is Julia Roberts in the Brat Pack? Well, she boned Kiefer Sutherland. So, yes, I would put Julia Roberts in the Brat Pack. Is Tom Cruise in the Brat Pack? No! Tom Cruise is not in the Brat Pack. Stop it. He's not. Anyway, we'll get into that later. In fact, I'm going to do a standalone video on that, because that's I think I want to watch the documentary first, and then I'll do the standalone as like a review of it, and establishing me, Pugs Moran, Gen expert, establishing me as sort of a critique of the way this is handled. Although honestly, and we'll talk about this later in the show, I don't think I have any problems with it, because it's Andrew McCarthy. Andrew McCarthy is the director and the creator and the interviewer of this entire Brat Pack thing, and Andrew McCarthy is decidedly a Brat Packer. Absolutely, Andrew McCarthy. Probably even had sex with Kiefer Sutherland. I don't know. They were a lot quieter about those things back then. All right. Happy birthday, Ali Sheedy. She went away, though. Undeniable. She went away. Can't wait to see her on this documentary. Want to see if she's, because I always had questions about her. Like, what was she into dudes? Like she's really pretty. I'm really attracted to her. She's got this smoldering sensibility about her, this understated style of acting where everything is done with the furrowing of her brow. And, there was something about her. But I always wondered, I'm like, she might be into girls. Like, even back in the 80s, I was like, she might be into girls. I don't know. Ali Sheedy, big fan. Let's see here. Another one. Born on this day in 1968, David Gray, English singer-songwriter. Oh, God. I mention him because he's not a big star, but I love David Gray. Oh my God, is that a beautiful man? I don't even know what he looks like, so it's not like any kind of sexual thing. But man, oh man, does he write a pretty song. David Gray, born on this day in 1968. Born on this day in 1970, another guy who I just absolutely am in love with, Rivers Cuomo. One of my favorite things is that I always liked Weezer. I always liked Weezer. Weezer was a fun band. Weezer is a fun band. Weezer has some great stuff. They span decades. They've been around forever. You tell me, hey, you want to go see Weezer? I'll be like, yeah, dude, I'll definitely go see Weezer. They're like that, but they were never like a top 10 band for me. Weezer and Rivers Cuomo, who's celebrating a birthday today, lead singer of Weezer. Weezer is now a top 10 band for me. And I'll tell you why. Because of all of the songs I have been working, it's been a 15-year process now with my son. I have been trying to give him a baseline cultural education with music and films and TV and all that stuff that just other kids his age aren't going to have. He's going to understand the history of the culture, the popular culture of this country. Of all the stuff that I've influenced him on, of all the stuff that he's been exposed to now here at 15 years old, he is like one of the biggest Weezer fans on the planet. I mean, he knows every word to every song. He knows and I'm very proud of that. And because of that, now I'm like a bigger fan of Weezer because Weezer is like our band. I don't know. Anyway, that is to me something that truly, establishes whether or not you're great. If you can stand the test of time like that, Weezer, Rivers Cuomo, he's got a birthday. Weezer was never number one. They're one of these bands that's always like, yeah, they were number 7, number 8, number 6, number 5. They were never number one, but they've been number 6 for 30 years. So, holy cow. Woo! I'll take that in the middle of my lineup. You kidding me? All right. Born on this day in 1974. Here's a guy I never understood. I don't know if he's good or bad. I don't know what his current state of things is. Is he the guy that's all Jesus-y? I don't know. Happy birthday, Steve-O. Steve-O from Jackass. I can't spend anything. Like, how much time am I supposed to spend on a guy who got kicked in the nuts for a living? How much do I have to say about a guy who became wealthier than I can ever imagine by allowing himself to be videotaped while getting kicked in the nuts for 20 years? Born on this day in 1981, one of the Chris's, Chris Evans. All right, now let's do our Chris math, our Hollywood celebrity Chris math. Chris Evans is not Chris Pine. He's also not Chris Pratt. And he's not a Hemsworth at all. So Chris Evans is Captain America. That's who he is, right? Chris Pine is Captain Kirk, right? Chris Pratt is Star-Lord. That's it. Okay. All right, we can move on. Born on this day in 1986, an actress by the name of Kat Dennings. The name stood out to me. I'm like, I've heard that name. I have no idea who she is. American actress and comedian, born on this day in 1986. Born on this day also in 1986. How weird is this? This was always. Now, I mean, I need to call some people out. Although thankfully I can't remember these people. Probably because these people are no longer in my life. Because all these years back, they were saying shit like this. Born on this day in 1986, Ashley and Mary Kate Olsen, the Olsen twins, were born on this day in 1986. People I'm talking about. Do you remember when it was like a common thing where like dudes would be like, can't wait till they turn 18? I always thought that was fucking weird because the Olsen twins, they disappeared from the public. I mean, if you're a dude, they stopped being on Full House when they were still children. They weren't everywhere. I mean, I guess they did kids movies and stuff, but if you weren't seeing that, what are you doing seeing, Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen movie in 2000, right? What are you doing? So these people that were like, can't wait till they turn 18. These people, I always thought, but you only picture them as children. What the fuck are you saying? What do you mean you can't wait till they turn 18? Hey, I will say this. Who knew that the Magic Olsen was Elizabeth, who was, not even born yet? Elizabeth Olsen. She's the bankable one. I know that Mary Kate and Ashley, they made all this money and they made it, so that the family could be, comfortable monetarily. But it's their little sister Elizabeth who, when all is said and done, is going to have Oscars. She is something else. Anyway, happy birthday, big sisters, Ashley Olsen and Mary Kate Olsen. Isn't that weird? That's so weird because even though they're the older sisters of Elizabeth Olsen, I've only known Elizabeth Olsen, the actress, as a grown woman actress. I mean, younger, but I've known her as like a superhero, Wanda from the Wanda. You know what I mean? She's playing a grown woman. She's playing a grown-ass woman. So that's my understanding of Elizabeth. But her older sisters, to me, will always be 4 years old. So when I look at Elizabeth Olsen and I think, I'm like, whoa, God damn, she's even younger than the Olsen twins, who I can't picture past 10. That's weird. All right, let's do it. That's it. You know what? That's going to do it for birthdays. Let's move into quarter 4. These are the dead people. Bonum, bonum, bonum. These are the dead people. Dead on this day, we decided to go to heaven or hell. Dead on this day in 1989, Fran Allison. Fran Allison was an American television personality, and she was a puppeteer. This is where I get into a weird spot because where I was raised in Chicago, I thought it was a local show. And there was a stupid local 1960s and 70s puppet show called Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. And it sucked. And I hated that puppet show. I was like, 4. And when this shit would come on, I'd be like, go back to Clutch Cargo. The fuck is this bullshit? I was very anti Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. But I don't know. She seemed like a nice lady. She was pretty. She was a pretty puppet lady, which is weird. Like when you say, we're putting her in heaven. I'm just going to put her in heaven because she did a kid's show. I think she was really more for people like my parents' age. Like when my mom, I think when my mom was a little kid, maybe she was into a Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. Anyway, not for me. For me, it sucked. I'm like, this sucks. It's 1974. Technology is never going to get better. And why am I watching this 1960s style puppetry on TV? That's how I felt in 1974. Let's see here. Dead on this day in 1993. We took off this cap and we're going to preemptively put him in heaven. No, what are we doing? Heaven. He goes to heaven, baby. Who must Pugs be so encouraged about giving a VIP backstage entrance directly to heaven? Why, on this day in 1993, the world lost a legend. The world lost Donald Kent Deke Slayton. That's right. Donald Kent Deke Slayton died on this day. He was an American Air Force pilot, aeronautical engineer. He was a test pilot. He was selected as one of the original NASA Mercury 7 astronauts. He went on to become NASA's first chief of the astronauts office. Any movie that you have seen about either the Apollo moon landing missions or all that, or the Mercury program, even the Gemini. Maybe you've seen some Gemini stuff. Any of the stuff that you have seen, the coolest MFer in that miniseries, movie, TV series, whatever it is, that coolest MFer is always the character portraying Deke Slayton. Wasn't he Harris? Wasn't he? I've never lost a man on earth. Isn't that him? Or is that Chris? Oh, shit. Hold on. Let me see here. Let's see here. In media. Let's see. Who has portrayed him in media? Let's see here. Anyway, you know what? I don't have to apologize. Deke Slayton's a badass. For All Mankind. If you watch For All Mankind, first of all, I love For All Mankind. It's an Apple TV series. It's an alternative history. It's about what would have happened if the United States didn't get to the moon first. What if the Russians got there first? And it's an alternative history about how that would have changed the trajectory of NASA. We'd have been, I'll put it to you this way. According to this series, we got to Mars by 1980 simply because we didn't win the moon. So we had to win Mars. Anyway, Chris Bauer plays him in that. He's very good. Yeah, that wasn't him. That was not gonna. Anyway, Deke Slayton's going to heaven because he's awesome. He's still a very cool guy. Chief of the Astronauts Office. He wasn't played by Ed Harris. Let's see here. Dead on this day in 2008, Tim Russert. He's a journalist. And he's one of these exalted journalists. Tim Russert dropped dead. Tim Russert seemed like a nice guy. He liked the Buffalo Bills. I remember that about him. Anytime the Buffalo Bills were good, like especially back in the 90s with Jim Kelly, he would always be on the news and he'd be like, my Buffalo Bills. So that's pretty much what I know about him. Other than that, he's a journalist. He was a very, very industry. The industry of journalism was very congratulatory to Tim Russert. We love Tim Russert. He is one of us. He is the best of us. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I just know that he represents journalism at a time that now we look back through the lens and we go, journalism was fucking bullshit back then. So sorry, Tim Russert. I'm putting you in hell. I'm putting you in hell because of the era that you represented. Dead on this day in 2010. Here's somebody else. We're preemptively going to put this dude in heaven. Jimmy Dean. No, not James Dean. Not James Dean. Jimmy Dean. I don't know what Jimmy Dean was. Jimmy Dean was the people will tell me, old folks, they'll be like, he was a country music singer. I'm like, okay, he ain't Hank Williams. I don't know who he is. Jimmy Dean. What did he have? A couple of hits in 1964. He's like his top thing. He was like, no, he had a song that charted in the top 20. I'm like, yeah, I don't know him as a country singer. I know him as, his second business, which is, of course, Sausage King of America. Jimmy Dean died on this day in 2010. I mentioned these the other day to my friend Wendy. We were talking about great places for breakfast when you're on the road. We were all in agreement that there is no finer dining establishment for breakfast than a Waffle House. I know if you're there at like 2 a.m, there's going to be some things. But if you're in a Waffle House at 10 a.m. on a Sunday and you're just traveling across country, that's some good-ass breakfast, man. There's a reason people go to Waffle House when they're drunk. Because everybody agrees it's good. And also it's open. But everybody agrees it's good-ass food. But we were talking about Waffle House. We all agreed that was the best. But then I offered up Jimmy Dean. I said, you guys got Jimmy Dean's or Bob Evans? No, because Bob Evans was one that nobody got. But they're like, yeah, we know Jimmy Dean restaurants. There's a couple of those. I'm putting this dude in heaven for no other reason than the dude was just a singer who made sausages. I don't know what went down, in his darker moments. I don't care. He sang country songs and he made sausages. That's enough in my book to get you into heaven. Dead on this day in 2014, Chuck Noll, 4 Super Bowls, Pittsburgh Steeler legend, American football player, coach, died on this day in 2014. He's going to hell, Chuck Noll. Are you kidding me? Chuck Noll, are you kidding me? Chuck Noll was a football coach at a time when football coaches were just, there was no concern at all for his players. His players were basically just robots. You got to go to hell. You just got to go to hell. If you were a football coach at the college or pro level in the 1970s, you are human garbage. I'm sorry, Tom Landry. Hey, maybe Coach Landry is the exception, right? Maybe, but don't be bringing me no Don Shula's. The stories about Don Shula, that dude, get out of here. All right. Dead on this day in 2014, Chuck Noll, we're putting him in hell. Dead on this day in 2021, Ned Beatty. Ned Beatty. Come on. Heaven, for what he went through in Deliverance. Just alone for what Ned Beatty had to go through in the film Deliverance. There was a point in that movie where they were casting it, and everybody got the scripts and they started reading the scripts, and Ned Beatty got to that part where he gets raped, humiliated, a brutal sexual humiliation in the woods at the hands of some freakishly inbred woodsman. They just start raping him in front of Burt Reynolds, in front of everybody. He's the guy. This is the pivotal scene in Deliverance. And Ned Beatty got to that scene. He read that and he was like, ew. I mean, God. We're putting him in heaven because, I mean, look, here's the thing. We know Ned Beatty from all the other stuff, right? I mean, I think sometimes when you picture Ned Beatty, you go, oh, he's the schmuck from Superman, right? He was so great as Lex Luthor's inept, bumbling guy in Superman. And then, everything else, he had that face. Ned Beatty had that face that was just like, oh, something bad's going to happen to that nice man, right? That was Ned Beatty's face. He's going to heaven. He got raped in Deliverance. All right, dead on this day in 2021, Ned Beatty. Ned Beatty. There was a great parody song, Steve Goody. I don't know, you can find it out there. It's one of my favorite parody songs. It's to the Tom Petty song, The Waiting. The waiting is the hardest part. Except it's changed to Ned Beatty has the hardest part. It's just about what it must have been like on the set of Deliverance while Ned Beatty was getting butt raped. Ned Beatty had the hardest part. I love that. I think that's the best parody song ever written. I just do. Steve Goody from like the 90s. All right, let's do it. Let's once again thank our executive producer of this here show. He is the wonderfully generous Jeff B. Thank you so much. The show exists on your gratuities, your tips. Treat me like I'm your bartender, your pizza delivery boy. If you do use this show for any kind of entertainment or whatever, think of me, won't you? Because I make no money from this other than what you people help out with. When I say no money, I mean no money. So if you want to be the executive producer of tomorrow's show, just like Jeff, be like Jeff, won't you? All you got to do is be today's big tipper. Drop it in the Venmo, drop it in the Cash App. I will leave that up as we move into Q4, which concerns all the day's headlines, hot topics, current events, and whatever else it is people are talking about. Shall we? We shall. Not even a word, not even a phrase. That's not a phrase. We shall. Not a thing anybody's ever said. The big story today, the abortion pill. The abortion pill. They're coming for you. I told you yesterday. I said, whoo. I made fun of people after they started doing the whole Roe versus Wade rollback. Dog, do you see the camera shaking? Do you know why the camera is shaking? Camera is shaking because the dog is licking her butt and the dog's tail is resting against. That's all butt licking shake right there. I'm going to kill this animal. No, I'm not. Oh, screw you, jerks. You know I love my dog. Hey, kiddo, how about you get out of there? Get out of there. Move. Get out of there. You go butt lick somewhere else where you're not going to be affecting the camera. Oh, she wants to go out now. Hey, guys, I'm going to take a quick break. It's going to be like 5 seconds. It's just going to be 5 seconds. I just need to move from here. I got to let her out. I'm going to let her go lick her butt outside. So we're going to go do that. So I'm going to go let her out of the room. I'll be right back. I promise you. Look, as the sign says, I will be right back. Well, now apparently she prefers to listen to the show and lick her. Get out of here! She won't leave. Okay, that's the problem. I opened the door. I tried to get her to leave, and she wouldn't leave. Now she's back here. What are you doing back there? You're back. You're going the wrong way, dude. She's trapped. She went into a corner head first, and now she can't turn around. She's trying to turn around. All right, that's fine. All right, whatever. She's back to laying under my feet. Let's get back to the big story of the day, which is the abortion pill ban. Is that what CNN is screaming about? Nah, they're talking about our other big story. The big story, though, Supreme Court of the United States voted 9-0 to continue to allow minestrone soup. Let's call it that. The mifepristone or whatever it is. Whatever. It's the abortion pill. That's what we normal people call the abortion pill. Here, you know what? This is kind of big news. So maybe I'll give you the exact way it's being reported. But I will say this. This is good news. I don't know how permanent this is. Is it good? It's good news for women. I said yesterday, I go, you guys, when they started monkeying around with the whole Roe versus Wade thing, you women needed to take that seriously, because I know in the days that followed, they were like, they're going to come for contraception next. And we were all like, you people stop being crazy on the left, you crazy lefty weirdos. Well, in this particular case, they were right, because there have been any number of challenges now to simple access to contraception. So it's not just about abortion being cruel and, it's about controlling your sexual activity. And more to the point, it seems to be targeting the sexual activity of women. So, me being a guy, they're not coming for me. Hey, you know why? Because I'm a white man. Because I'm a middle-aged white man. I'm pretty much all right. I mean, as far as like this, I know I'm supposed to, as a middle-aged white man, be like, they're coming at me from all angles. But they're not really coming at me from all angles. Like, there is no legislation that's going to make, well, what if, okay, so how about this? So what if the Congress of the United States just all of a sudden decided that they were going to start making rules that limited the amount of tea times that a white man over the age of 40 could have access to in a week? Oh, you can't, I mean, come on, right? I mean, it's silly to make such a stupid analogy, but it's the same kind of thing. It's something that expressly targets, what the hell? See, that's me yelling at the dog. Now you want to go out. Now you want to go out. Now she wants to go out. Ooh, we do this all the time. Like, I'll come in the bedroom. It's got a big house here. Duplex. I'll come in the bedroom and I'll have the door open and she'll sit outside the bedroom. And then I'll just slam the door in her face. I'll be like, fine, if you don't want to come in, and I'll slam the door. And then I have to wait 30 seconds. And it's always around 30 seconds. I have to wait 30 seconds. And then she'll start whining. And then I'll open the door and then she'll come in. I don't understand this process. Why do we have to go through this every time? She knows I'm talking about her too. She's just staring at me. I love you. Parents know that. It's where you're so angry and you think your child is just the worst thing that's ever happened to you in that moment. That's your emotion. But the words that come out are, I love you. It's like, two parts of you colliding at once. I love this thing, but also I hate this thing right now. All right, she's good. She's calmed down now. The Supreme Court. All right, so again, they're coming after your contraception. So just stay frosty on that one, ladies. And men, the contraception, that's a man thing. What? What do you mean? I took great look in my dating days. It was always nice when you found out you were with somebody who was on the pill, especially somebody that, they're taking care of it. Okay, I don't have to worry about. Look, I'm telling you, contraception is a male thing too. Now, abortion and that invasive surgical procedure, that's something that people may. That's a woman thing. They gotta make, but contraception that crosses all of that's. So contraception is another thing. But now we got this. Now we got the abortion pill, which is about, oh my God, I got drunk last night and I don't think he was wearing protection. And now I need something to make sure that whatever is possibly being fertilized gets flushed out. So that's what the abortion pill is. That's not abortion. That's not killing. Unless, is the argument that, life begins at orgasm, because that's the only argument I can see that someone could make about the abortion pill. Why did we spend 30 years talking about, 10 weeks and all of these things when you people really just wanted at orgasm? That's where that's your starting line, was at orgasm is when life begins. So anyway, now they're coming after the abortion pill. Thing that a lot of girls, I guess, use. I don't know. I've never been in a situation where an abortion pill was needed, but then again, I'm a little bit older, and maybe if I was 10 years younger, I would. The Supreme Court today rejects a bid to restrict access to the abortion pill. The court found that anti-abortion doctors who questioned the FDA's easing of access to the pill did not have legal standing to sue. In a blow for anti-abortion advocates. Wait, it's such a confusing anti-abortion. Okay, so if you are anti-abortion, that means you're pro-life. I just like the pro-choice, pro-life. Did that so much easier. Pro-life, pro-choice. There you go. I hate this. Anti-abortion advocates. Okay, that's pro-life. In a blow for pro-life advocates, the Supreme Court on Thursday rejected a challenge to the abortion pill, mifepristone. I'm going to try and pronounce this properly. Mifepristone. Mifepristone. God, that's a hard one to say. The Supreme Court on Thursday rejected a challenge to the abortion pill mifepristone, meaning the commonly used drug can remain widely available. 9-0. So it was a clean sweep, which I think is surprising to people. I don't know if it's surprising. I think that's good news. I think it's good news. Here's what the Supreme Court said. And this is the Supreme Court said a lot on it. Justice Kavanaugh actually gave the initial opinion on it. There was no dissent. So it's 9-0. They all said, yeah. One of the things that was brought up, though, was that the Supreme Court didn't feel it was their duty to decide these kinds of things, and that these kinds of things were more the responsibility of the legislatures or that kind of thing. So I don't know, whatever. That was one of the things they said. All right, let's keep going. We're moving on. Biden, he's over there in Italy. At least that's where they told him he was. He's what? Where am I? Smoke some ganja? No, Italy. You're in Italy, not Jamaica. You're in Milan, not Jamaica. And that's something I saw on Twitter earlier today. God, I should have given context. Now I just sound like a crazy person. So he's in Italy. The G7's going on. Who's the G7? That's the Global 7. That's our Avengers, baby. That's who this is. This is the closest goddamn thing that we've got as American citizens to the Avengers. So who do we have? The G7. Basically, let's put it this way. This is America's 6 best friends. But they're our best friends at a private country club. Like we might, you know what I mean? Like we might be really good friends with, say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a little country or something. New Zealand. We might be friends with New Zealand, right? And we're like, New Zealand's a really good friend, but they can't get into this country club. This is like the 7 big, powerful, wealthy friends. These are the Avengers of the new modern world. Who are the G7? Well, of course, it's us. United States of America. Captain America. Joe Biden. Did you see the picture of all of them? It's like they're all holding them up. No, they're not. Be fair, Pugs. Be fair. It's just so frustrating, these 2 choices that we're looking at for president of the United States. I just can't take it anymore. So we've got the United States. We got Canada. With all due respect to Canada, and I know a lot of Canadians, I count Canadians as some of my best friends. Dr. Schwartz. Although he's not even Canadian. He's like, I'm not Canadian anymore. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm an American citizen and have been for decades. I'm like, well, okay, but you were born and raised in Canada. He's like, yeah, but I got out of there. Whatever. Still Canadian. But Canada, if we're going to war, and it's like the United States and Russia, right? And China and Russia and China, and They're hanging out, and it's like us, the United States steps up, and they're like, who else you got? And we're like, come on, Canada. Canada doesn't really strike fear into anybody. France, right? France. I don't know that France strikes fear into anybody as far as like military might. Although they are pretty militarily, they got some shit in France. They do. They got some tech and stuff. The France, they're a nuclear nation. France is okay. Whatever. I'm just saying. I would go with, you know what? I would be more intimidated to fight France than Canada. How's that? There you go. Next up in our G7 buddies, we got Germany. Germany's in the G7. United States, Canada, France, Germany. Germany is our friggin' ace in the hole, man. Germany's our Hulk. That's who Germany is. Germany's our Hulk. And, right now, Germany's all very technical, and the scientists and, like David Banner. They're very, and they got the glasses, and that's Germany right now. Do not make Germany mad, is my whole point. That's all I'm saying. Don't make Germany mad. We know what happens when we make Germany mad. Anyway, Germany's in our group. I love that. I love that Germany's with us. Really, all you gotta do is just give them people guns. They have proven what they're willing to do. For once, maybe we get them on our side. We get that German fighting spirit. Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, Pugs, they lost 2 wars. I'm like, yeah, they lost 2 consecutive wars against the entirety of the rest of the world. That's 2 world. These people went up against the entire rest of the world. Oh, they had Italy and Japan. Come on. Not even good Japan. Like that was like bad Japan. It wasn't going to work. Germany is in there. Italy also is. Italy ain't going to. What is Italy going to do? The Italian army. What do you guys do? What have you guys held down? You've made a mess of North Africa. The Italians, they don't know what they're doing. The Italians, again, Italy, not a great friend to have here in the G7. And they can't be trusted. It's just how I feel about the Italians in general. And of course, Japan. Japan is good. I like Japan. Japan as a people and as a military force, they went for the brass ring. They grasped for it and they paid the ultimate price. Ever since then, Japan has been like, okay. I don't think Japan has been brought to heel. I don't believe that for 1 second. I think that Japan is just being Japan. They're just like, think about this. Japan challenged the world, or at least the entire Pacific side of the world. Japan challenged the world from a tiny little island. They got nothing. Japan made China their bitch. Have you ever looked at China and Japan side by side? And then ask yourself, how did Japan make China their bitch? Because Japan did. I don't know. Japan, Germany. I like that. I like that we got Japan and Germany, but here's the one that I really like. This is the group that I really like. This is my favorite. Okay, this is probably our best friend. We have a very special relationship. The United friggin' Kingdom. Oh, don't sleep on them. I know, and I say this as an Irishman. Do not fucks with the British military. They are, they are tested. They have a spirit. There is like just this reputation of the British military. They conquered the world again from a tiny little island. Tiny little island, the Brits they conquered. So that's good. All right, there you go. There's our best friends. As we head on, as we stand upon the precipice of what many are considering to be the most dangerous times of our age, these are our friends. Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, and the United States. Woo! Let's go. Biden's in Italy for the G7. Miami is in the news. Miami is underwater, which, it seems like people have been saying this is probably going to happen for the last 20 years. Here we are, in this kind of, people are freaking out. They're like, Miami, there's all kinds of rain and Miami's underwater and the Keys. It's a complete devastation. There's bad stuff happening in Miami weather-wise. Southern Florida is like completely underwater, and people are like, "Oh my God." This is like, what do you mean? Oh my God. This is like the people who went to see Siegfried and Roy and saw the tiger eat Roy and were like, oh my God, that's not supposed to happen. That is exactly what is supposed to happen. Roy is supposed to get eaten by a lion. A human being is not supposed to be standing next to a lion or a tiger or whatever the hell it was. That's why you are paying a ticket to get in, because what you are being promised is not supposed to be allowed to happen. And guess what? On the night that you went to the Siegfried and Roy show, you're the only people who ever saw an honest Siegfried and Roy show, and you wanted your money back. Some of these people were like, I want my money back. I'm like, fuck. Money back? Jesus, you should just sell the ticket stub. Sell the ticket stub on eBay, because there are people that will pay money to be able to say they were at that show. I'm telling you, that's how people are. The show, you were the only honest Siegfried and Roy show. So anyway, it's the same kind of thing when people are all like, oh my God, Miami's underwater. Well, yeah, that's kind of what people have been saying. You're a swamp state. You were founded underwater. What is the surprise here? I mean, I have no expectation that Florida is going to be a thing in 500 years. I don't think half of Texas is going to be a thing in 500 years. I don't think the West Coast of the United States is going to be a thing in 500 years. The world changes. Shit happens. All right, let's move now into a story here of grave local concern. I don't really know how to even address this, but let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks, shall we? All right, cut that stuff out. Oh my God. So I got some thoughts here on the Dallas Mavericks. Our Dallas Mavericks, who we've really enjoyed. I would say that we've enjoyed one hell of a season, but that ain't true. You lying sacks of garbage. You people haven't been enjoying this team past March. Maybe in March is when people started going, oh, we don't want Jason Kidd fired anymore. And oh my God, Kyrie and Luka can play together. That's when you people all changed. Diehard Dallas fans, Dallas Maverick fans, were calling for the heads of everyone involved in November. So don't act like, It's been fun. This has been fun. I never felt the magic with this team, though. This has been a great run, and this is why we love sports. We love sports because the unexpected sometimes happens, and guess what? Maybe we don't get to finish. But by golly, nobody expected us to be watching basketball here in the middle of June, talking about a Game 4 coming up on Friday for the NBA Finals, for the NBA Championship. Dallas Mavericks, of course. It's no fun being down 3-0 in a best-of-7 series with the title on the line on Friday here, your home court. But let me tell you something. Here's what I would prefer. By the way, just for the record, I don't have any hope. I don't have any hope. If you've been watching these games, I described it yesterday as a kitten, 5 cats with a ball of yarn just knocking it around to each other. That's what it appears that the Boston Celtics have been able to do to the Dallas Mavericks, a team that has been so enjoyable to watch this past month. They've got them looking completely outclassed. Oh, but the Mavericks keep coming back. They keep coming back because the Boston Celtics keep allowing them to stay in the game. Now, I'm not saying that the Boston Celtics are, doing it on purpose, but teams take breaks. Teams hit the gas for certain stretches, and they go up 20 points, and then they take their foot off the gas, and that's when the other team is allowed to climb back in. The great teams then hit the gas again and put it out of reach. And don't tell me about how the Mavericks have been able to battle back to make them close games late in all 3 of these contests, because that's not true. It's only been in 2. But also, don't tell me that, because that doesn't count. It doesn't count when the other team goes, all right, let's put our feet on their throats and let's do it one more time. And that's what the Boston Celtics have been able to consistently do. My God, Brown and Tatum, they're dominant. They're absolutely dominant. They had that, what was it, number 11 Pritchard yesterday? They had him on Luka. And it's like his entire job was just drive Luka insane. And he did. He fucked with Luka relentlessly. They just seem better. They've been the best team. And look, there's no shame in this. The Boston Celtics have been the best team in the NBA the entire season. This is what was supposed to happen for the Boston Celtics, but maybe it'll be a good thing. I think that if they lose Friday on the floor at the American Airlines Center, they lose Friday on the floor, that is exactly the kind of thing that a great and interesting and surprising young team needs to see. They need to have that happen on their own floor. Let it happen. None of them, by the way, none of them want to get on a plane and go to Boston for one game over the weekend. None of them want to have their weekend ruined. So, just think about it. If the game starts to get a little bit out of hand on Friday, I think this Mavericks team might give up. Now let's move on to the big problem, because certainly a team that is willing to give up is a problem, but we've got a bigger problem on this team. And I say this as a guy, again, I make that differential between the teams of my youth, the childhood teams that I grew up obsessing on, that I do not have an unbiased view of, and the teams that I just root for as a grown-up because they're fun teams and they've earned my attention. Dallas Mavericks are one of those teams. But I'm not blinded to the problems of this team the way that other people are. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now, and every time I say it, whether it's on social media, I get excuses, and I understand it, man. Dallas, we love our stars, and he's our star, and yeah, maybe he's a baby and an asshole, but he's our baby and an asshole. But that's who Luka Doncic is. I love watching Luka play. Luka's one of the greatest basketball players I've ever seen, and I produced Chicago Bulls radio back when they were winning championships. So I've seen the greats. Luka's in the top 5 guys that are able to take over a game and go, nobody is going to deny that. But Luka is a problem in other ways. Luka is a distraction. Luka is a baby. Luka complains more than anyone else. And I've been saying, and I find this interesting because I love sports radio and I obsess on it, which is why it's interesting that I've never even tried to go do sports radio. Because it's my joy. That's why. I don't want to turn my joy, something I enjoy, into, something that I get fired from and I'm angry about. Anyway, point is this. I listen to a number of Dallas sports radio. I listen to The Fan in New York on YouTube all day long. I also listen to select shows from Chicago. And of all the national shows, whenever I'm not listening to Dallas and the subject of Luka comes up, nobody likes him. Nobody likes him. And, that's not great for this team. That's not a great brand for this team because they've also got Kyrie Irving. And although I now really like Kyrie, I like what Kyrie is. I didn't know what Kyrie was. Kyrie came with a whole preamble about what we were going to get. And he hasn't been that. Kyrie seems to be a stand-up good teammate. But, you already got a national feeling that Kyrie's a troublemaker, and now they're looking at Luka. It's not a liked team. It's almost like the Mavericks. And now Mark Cuban isn't around anymore, so the culture, for me, has taken a more sterile kind of vibe. Mark Cuban, for 20 years, created a vibe and a culture around the Dallas Mavericks. And let's not give credit where it's due. Dirk Nowitzki is in charge of that. Dirk Nowitzki right there was ground zero for that culture, the attitude, the brand of the Dallas Mavericks. And what was it? Everybody loved Dirk because Dirk is a good guy. Dirk was, Dirk can get fiery on the court, and we love that, but so do all the great champions. They all get fiery. But Dirk wasn't a bitch. Dirk wasn't somebody that people in New York on sports radio in Chicago or in Los Angeles were just going to give a hot take where that guy's a dick. Nobody ever said that about Dirk. People say that about Luka a lot. People do not like Luka. And yet here in Dallas, it'd be funny the way he drove to the stadium in that new car. Oh, Luka, we excuse as fans. That's the unreasonable aspect of being a fan of the team of your youth. And again, I draw this distinction because I am also a fan of the Mavericks, but they're not the team of my youth, so I can see what the other people are saying. Now, here is a very interesting, oh, God. Hold on, we're going to show. Signed out? What do you mean I've been signed out? Hold on. I hate when Google does this, and they only do it in the middle of the show. They sign me out. All right, hold on. Stop it. You are driving me nuts. Yes, I love you. Yes, you are my friend. No, you can. Come on, say hi to everybody. Let everybody see how much of a pain in the butt you are. So yesterday, following the game, obviously Luka played a huge role in that loss yesterday. Luka lost his cool. Luka fouled out. Luka cannot foul out with 4 minutes to go in an NBA Finals game. You can't do that. That is not. I hate to make those unfair comparisons, right? But that's LeBron never fouled out in a must win, and that was a must win. I mean, as far as spirit and all that, no, but Jordan didn't foul out. Kobe never fouled out with 4 minutes in a finals game. I mean, that was just a mess. So here we are. So anyway, after the game, I guess they were doing the Sports Center thing, and Brian Windhorst, who is not a hysterical pearl clutcher he's not a Skip Bayless or a Stephen A. Smith or any of these people. He's usually a bit more measured, and he seems to have some real credibility, we should say, within the NBA community. So this is Brian Windhorst on ESPN. This isn't on some podcast or something that's now going viral. This was like the nationwide platform immediately following the game. Here's Brian Windhorst. He's on Sports Center. I wanted to show this to you. Talking about Luka. And this is the national view of Luka. And this is a problem if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan.
Right, a year ago, people wanted him to punt, and now it's like you weren't going to get better if you did. Meanwhile, Dallas, this is their first time on this stage. Luka and Kyrie combined for actually more than Tatum and Brown did, but Luka fouls out late. I just wonder your reaction to that whole sequence.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect that Luka fell onto the ground there in an unacceptable position to put himself in with 4 minutes left with 5 fouls, and then immediately looks at the bench and says, "You better bleeping challenge it," as if it's the bench's fault that he just made a terrible play. I'm standing here in the Mavericks tunnel. Over there is the Celtics tunnel. That's where the winners are. If Luka's ever going to be a winner coming out of this tunnel here, he is going to have to use what's happened in this finals as a learning experience. His defensive performance is unacceptable. He is a hole on the court. The Celtics are attacking him. They are ahead in this series because they have attacked him defensively. And you've got a situation here where Luka is complaining about the officiating. They have begged him. They have talked with him. They have pleaded with him. He is costing his team because of how he treats the officials. He's a brilliant player. He does so many things well. They are here because of how he did. His performance in this game is unacceptable, and the reason why the Mavericks are not going to win. He's got to get over this. And the fact that he came out after the game and blamed the officials showed me he's nowhere close yet. So maybe over the summer, somebody will get to him, because nobody with the Mavericks or anybody else in his life has.
Oh. Okay. All right. I think we lost the very end of it there. Because nobody in his life has obviously gotten through to him. That's Brian Windhorst. Again, that's not Stephen A. trying to get clickbait viral hits, right? No, this is the platform that immediately followed the NBA Finals game. This is Sports Center. This is their flagship. And this is Brian Windhorst. Again, he's not one of these hysterical pearl-clutching journalists. That's him, a very highly respected national NBA voice, basically destroying Luka for his antics. You don't hear that here in Dallas. Maybe you do now. Maybe you do now. Maybe today. Maybe that'll be a little bit different. But my God, the mollycoddling of Luka Doncic, when you compare it to the way the rest of the world that doesn't have this crazy bias towards the team, when you hear it, I just don't get it. He's not a good guy. There you go. Let's just put it there. If we're giving white and black hats to players in the NBA, Luka Doncic is wearing a black hat. Dirk Nowitzki wore a white hat. Luka is wearing a black hat. Hell, Kyrie, I think, is wearing a white hat. It's just not likable. And I want him to be likable because, my God, he's so fun to watch. But he's just not likable. All right, moving on. Hey, we also have some movement here with the Russian prisoner from the Wall Street Journal. Remember this guy, this Gershkovich guy, Evan Gershkovich. He is a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. He's been held captive in Russia, in a Russian prison for about a year now. They're saying that he's a big old spy. And he's saying, no, I'm not. I'm a writer for the Washington Post. And I'm like, yeah, that's what a CIA spy would do for a job. That would be his reason for trying, and that would be his deniability when he gets caught. Yeah. Anyway, U.S. reporter Evan Gershkovich, who's jailed in Russia on espionage charges, is now going to stand trial. He has been officially charged. It was one of the big problems for the last year, is that there were no official charges, so we didn't even know what he was being accused of or why he was there. Dateline Moscow, U.S. journalist Evan Gershkovich, who's been jailed for over a year on espionage charges, will stand trial in the Ural Mountain city of Yekaterinburg, where he was detained. An indictment of the Wall Street Journal reporter, I'm sorry, what did I say, Washington Post or Wall Street? He's Wall Street Journal. The indictment of the Wall Street Journal reporter has been finalized and his case was filed. Okay. There was no word on, there were just a bunch of really rough Russian words that I was going to have to pronounce there, so I just skipped over them. It doesn't matter. There was no word on when the trial would begin. Gershkovich, Evan Gershkovich, 32, is accused of gathering secret information on orders from the CIA about Yorovagranadzgavad facility. It's a facility in Zverdanskalank region that I might not have that pronunciation right. It's a region that produces and repairs military equipment. So here's what they said. They said that you went down there and you were spying on a place that the Russian military uses to repair things. And we think you're a CIA spy because this is the kind of information that they would want. And so he's like, no, I work for the Wall Street Journal. And so now we've got all this. What are you doing in Russia would be my thing. Why? Everybody who goes to Russia, I don't care what you're going to Russia for. So I don't care if you're going to Russia for a bowling tournament, but it's the European bowling champion. Whatever. I don't care what you're going to Russia for. Everybody who goes to Russia, it's like, do we need to pull them aside and go, look, MFer, if you get arrested for something, it's going to cost us shit. Just don't go to Russia. Just don't go to Russia. I'm not saying you did it. I'm not saying you didn't do it. I'm saying that if they arrest you, MSNBC is going to demand that, we spend all kinds of money on getting your ass back because you just had to attend that Russian bowling tournament or whatever. Journalist, it's my job. No, it's not. It's Russia. It's not your job. You know what? You're a journalist. Go to France. Go to Paris. You don't need to be in Russia. There's problems there. It's a high-risk job. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't. Okay, so journalists, you want to go over there, you get caught. Look, you're on your own. You're on your own. You're trying to get that big story. Why? Because you want to help mankind or because you want to win a Nobel Prize and maybe be able to get a big advance on your next book deal? What is this about? Because all I know is now we got to be worried about you over there, who, quite frankly, if you were snooping around the place they say you were snooping around, I don't know how that's a Wall Street Journal story. Point is this guy was absolutely probably working for the CIA. Half the people they got, look, all the ones that we got here are bad guys, right? Like, we believe that all these people that we've arrested, these Russian citizens that we've arrested, no way, we believe those charges, right? So you can believe those charges too. We're spying on each other. It's not that hard to imagine. This guy is probably a CIA dude. Because once again, if you're a CIA dude, you have a job, a normal life. That's the whole thing about, the CIA. What would be a good cover job? Well, I think a Wall Street Journal international reporter might be a good job if you're actually working for the CIA. Anyway, so no trial date has been set, but we actually now have the charges on Evan Gershkovich. By the way, he was there the whole time. Brittany Griner was there, but she was like, I don't know, she was the one we cared about. We can only focus on one at a time. And there's a whole bunch of other people over there. Well, I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Let's see here. How about this? Oh, here's a story. This came out of Newsweek. This is a very disturbing story. I hate this story. And I had no idea what I'm about to tell you was a thing until about 2 hours ago. And now I'm like, oh man, what is wrong with us? You know how I sometimes prattle on about wrong side of history. And even today, I talked about how the citizens of Rhode Island in 1774 on this day decided that slavery was not something that they were going to allow, right? 1774, they knew better, so the whole thing, okay. We know better. This next story that I'm telling you right now, we know better right now, okay? So let's try and be on the right side of history. There are states that are emerging in this country that are essentially becoming child marriage havens. Child marriage. First of all, you guys, did you know that child marriage is basically legal all over this country? And that there are a shit ton of states where kids as young as 8 years old have been legally married to like men in their 30s. Here's the thing. There are a bunch of states that have rules about child marriage. Why don't we talk about this? There are a bunch of states that have rules about child marriage where and this is what I love, if one of the parents, like all you need is one, all you need is one parent. I think maybe both parents would be a good start. Anyway, if one parent wants to sign off on you at 8, 9, 10 years old, getting married to old 40-year-old creeper dude, it's legal. It's legal if you as the parent. But here's what's fucked up about it. That person that is now legally married in these states is not old enough to legally seek a divorce. So they're essentially slaves until they're 18. And at 18, they can legally seek a divorce. So they can be given away. Oh, it's such a gross story. I had no idea this was even a thing. Child marriage havens emerging across the United States. It says here, as more states make child marriage illegal. Think about that statement. Think about that sentence. I'll say it again for you. As more states, more of them, we're getting more of them. As more states make child marriage illegal, well, why isn't it illegal in all states? Why is this? See, this is what I'm talking about. Right side of history. Look, we know goddamn well that in 2024, nobody under the age of 18 should be allowed to legally get married. But somehow there's all of these states that are, I'm going to run through these states too. You're going to be blown away because it ain't the ones you think. I mean, it is. It's some of the ones you think, but it's some other ones that you don't. California, let's say, no, I don't need this. This is a personal story. Who cares about that? Let's get down to some of the details about this creepy ass story. Let's see here. I was a very petite teenager, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So this is somebody's firsthand story about how she was married off at 11 years old. Hold on. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble scanning through this story. Come on, I just want the map. I want to talk about the maps of places where nearly 300,000 children, some as young as 10, were married in the United States between 2000 and 2018. Wrap your mind around that. Between the year 2000 and 2018, 300,000 children, some as young as 10 years old in America. In America, in the last 20 years, we've had state-sanctioned marriage of a 10-year-old child. What? This is as mind-blowing to me as like when that Malaysian airplane disappeared. Remember when the plane just disappeared? I remember when that happened. I was like, planes can't, it's a commercial passenger plane. They can't just disappear. Do you know that when those planes take off, we have tracking on every single movement on that plane? Hell, we could probably take a satellite and look directly into the pilot's window to see what's going on if we need. That's what I thought. Then the fucking Malaysian plane just disappears. And I'm like, holy shit, I don't know anything. Nothing that I thought was real. You're telling me a plane can just disappear? Now here we are. Now you're telling me, like, in the last couple of years, 10-year-olds have legally gotten married in America. That's what you're fucking telling me right now. And what, CNN can't be bothered about this story? This is a real story. Nearly 300,000 children, some as young as 10 years old, were married in the United States between 2000 and 2018. And this, according to Unchained at Last, an organization working to end child marriage. I was about to mock that, with my Unchained, but then I thought, wait a second, this is an organization I shouldn't mock. Let's be reverent where it's called for. Unchained at Last is the organization. The vast majority of these 300,000 children who were married, it would surprise you to learn that the vast majority were girls who were wed to adult men over the age of 30. Does that surprise you? Nah, it ain't fucking surprising me. I would be shocked. What, some sexy 40-year-old cougar is going to marry some 12-year-old boy? That's not something women do. Okay, so let's see. What else do we have here? Child marriage. Guys, I didn't know this was a thing. I really did. I thought you gotta be at least, 8. I just thought you had to be 18. This is mind-blowing to me. Child marriage is defined as a marriage where at least one of the parties is under 18 years of age. The United Nations calls it a human rights violation and a form of forced marriage, given at least one or both parties have full, free, and informed consent. Right, because if you're married to a 10-year-old, that 10-year-old has no legal rights. They're a child. They're supposed to be under the jurisdiction of their parents. But apparently one of their parents has decided that, this kid can be married to old Mr. Crockett for what? 2 goats and I don't know. Since 2018, 12 states have ended child marriage. All right. Raising the legal age of marriages to 18 across the board. New Hampshire could soon follow. Get on it, New Hampshire. Let's go. Legislation to end child marriage has been approved by the New Hampshire House and the Senate and is awaiting Republican Governor Chris Sununu's signature. Sununu's office has been contacted for comment via email. Meanwhile, there's a bill to prohibit child marriage pending in California. That's right, California, hotbed of child marriage. Old liberal West Coast California, where a man means no harm of 60 can marry a 12-year-old if he's so inclined. Why, that's the ultimate freedom, is it not? No, it's not. No, it's not. Let's see here. It's always been easy. It's always been very easy to do, and it always will be easy to do. Frady Rice, the founder and executive director of Unchained at Last, says about the problem of child marriage. When one state ends child marriage, often you'll see in a neighboring state that still allows it, or even a few states over, you'll see those numbers suddenly increase. I would say a fairly large percentage of the survivors that we work with were not married in the state where they live. She noted that data compiled by Unchained at Last. So there's these states that are still cool with it. So people all right, let's go to the states. She noted the data compiled by Unchained at Last found 3 minors were married in Maine in 2020, but that number tripled to 9 in 2021. The year that Pennsylvania, New York, and Rhode Island and New York ended child marriage. Okay, so what they're saying is, okay, that's interesting. So in Maine, there were only 3 minors that got married in 2020. But all in 2021, Pennsylvania, New York, and Rhode Island and New Jersey all ended child marriage. So that means the next year, the Maine numbers jumped because all the people in New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey that wanted to, marry a 5-year-old. No, that's crazy. A 10-year-old. They had to move to Maine where they could be left alone in the woods. All right, so here you go. So here's child marriage laws by state. Right here in Texas and Illinois. Okay, these are my 2 home states. Texas and Illinois are both red, which means that the minimum age that you can marry somebody in this state is 16. All right, Texas perverts, if you want to marry a 16-year-old, you weirdo, you can. I think you just got to get one parent to approve it. Let's see here. What states have no minimum age? Okay, so here are the states where go ahead. You can go for it. As long as one parent says that you can marry my 10-year-old. Here's where you can do that. California, marry a 10-year-old. Oklahoma, can marry a 10-year-old. New Mexico, can marry a 10-year-old. What is that? Of course, Alabama, you can marry a 10-year-old. That's it. Child marriage is illegal in Oregon, Michigan, Minnesota, and then a whole bunch of those states I just mentioned: Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire. Let's see, what else do we have? Minimum age of 15. Let's see, where can you? Well, Nebraska. Nebraska is the only state where you have to be at least 15 years old. Guys, that's a really creepy story. Did you know that that was a thing? Didn't you just assume that you had to be 18 to get married and that nobody, but there are men, there are fathers, and there are families out there who are marrying off 10-year-old children to fully grown adults, and it's totally legal. Good Lord. All right, here's something else that, well, I don't know if to tie this into totally legal. Leah Thomas, the swimmer. Remember Leah Thomas? She was a big cause of pearl clutching and concern. And she's a dude. Oh, God. Okay, I'm going to try. Okay, again, because this is not, whatever. This is her life. Her life. Look at me being respectful. So Leah Thomas was born unto this big blue marvel with a schmeckle dangling. And she decided, as a lot of people are experiencing at this point in our age of confusion, she decided that she was going to, she's going to be a her from now on, even though she was a dude and she was on like the swimming team and she was a pretty good swimmer. I mean, she was a college scholarship level swimmer as a dude. So that's pretty good. But her life took her in a different direction and she started, deciding that she wanted to be a woman. But the problem came when she also decided she still wanted to swim. And so now there are all kinds of questions of, well, what kind of abilities do you have native to you and natural? You get it. She was the trans swimmer who beat people, but was she like the greatest of all time? Like, is that the standard that we should use? And I don't necessarily think that it is, but the fact that she just routinely could beat other female swimmers and that she as a competitor went from when she was competing against other men in her freshman and sophomore year, she was not very good. She was a scholarship swimmer, so she was good to that level, but competing against others, she was middle. She was But then she became a woman swimmer and she started winning. She was good. That obviously raised a lot of eyebrows and people started talking. And this young woman, she became the epicenter for a lot of anger and hatred and all this stuff. And I don't know if that's fair, but if I could have one thing to say to Leah Thomas, I would say, you know what? I congratulate you on the bravery of your journey. And oh my goodness, I'm sure that you are dealing with things that I couldn't even fathom, and I wish nothing but love and compassion for you as you move forward. But you can't swim anymore. Come on. Yeah, come on, man. You can't have everything. Leah Thomas has lost a transgender case. It's been thrown out of U.S. swimming. All right, I'm just going to read it to you. All right, because can I just... we're going to show you just so you guys know who I'm talking about. This is Leah Thomas. She wants to swim against women. She's not an evil monster. She just needs to give up swimming. That's what I would say to her. Boom. There she is. She's got very broad shoulders, very strong, a bit, very big. Leah Thomas, the swimmer who became the first transgender winner of an American collegiate title, has had her case against New World Aquatic rules dismissed by the Court of Arbitration of the sport. All right, let's try and get into this. World Aquatics banned transgendered swimmers from the elite female category if they had undergone any part of male puberty following Leah Thomas's NCAA win in 2022. So here's what they decided. They decided after she won in 2022, they made some new rules and they said, look, if you have gone through puberty as a boy, you cannot swim against women. And she did. She went through puberty as a boy. So, Leah Thomas responded by logging a legal challenge with CAS, I don't know what that is, in September of last year, arguing that the rules were invalid and unlawful because they were discriminatory and contrary to the Olympic Charter and European Convention on Human Rights. However, the case is dismissed after concluding that the rules applied only to World Equality. But come on, man, you're not being, again, why is nobody thinking about the little girl who woke up at 4:30 in the morning every day for 8 years, dreaming and hoping to one day be the best at swimming? And she did this, and she worked her butt off, and she got a college scholarship. She's got dreams, and she has worked her ass off. Nobody's thinking about her when they drop Leah Thomas in there with her big, strong shoulders and her, long, tall, masculine build. And she does. And I'm sorry. There's no such thing as a masculine build. Oh, fuck you. Yes, there is. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a masculine build. Scarlett Johansson has a feminine build. Shut up. Leah Thomas, and I'm calling her a she, and I'm being respectful. I don't have no malice against her as a person. As a matter of fact, I've got a certain degree of look at her go for her. I don't hate her. But that's a masculine build. She's obviously, benefited from the male puberty thing. And, so anyways, that's what the pool people were saying. The pool people are like, okay, look. You can't have gone through puberty as a boy, okay? You can't have that. If you're trans before that or whatever, that's okay. If you use the blockers or whatever, she didn't use the puberty blockers. She's got full metal dude testosterone. She's got balls. She's got everything. She's got that aggression, that strength, that core power. But women are powerful too. No, they're not, man. It's like I say, anything that doesn't rely on brute force, strength, or speed, a woman can do at the exact same level of a man. And why not better? I mean, I don't know. There's nothing that would stop a woman from being the best fighter pilot in the world over a man. There's nothing that would stop a woman from being the greatest thinker or scientist of her time over a man. But there is something that's going to stop a woman from being the Olympic powerlifting champion. That's always going to be a man because the bodies are different. It's always going to be a man. A woman will never be the fastest sprinter on the planet. Never. Because the speed, explosion, and power that is generated from an apex male athlete will always just be a little bit more than that generated from an apex female athlete. Simply because of size and the ability to naturally generate said power, explosion, and speed. How is it that we are having these conversations? So Leah Thomas, you know what? Just don't swim anymore, man. Go ahead, be an advocate, talk about your experience. You can have a whole career. What are you going to do, be a professional swimmer? Stop it. Ugh. All right, there you go. Anyway, they ruled against her, and so, there we have it. How about this? Netflix has announced a new series that they're going to be putting on. Let's talk about this. It is that time of year, right? It's the summer, which means it's time to eat like a complete pig. We all do it. We enjoy. We overeat in the summer. Why not? Because it's fun. And there's always more hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill. Why not? Sure, I'll have one more. I'll have one more 900-calorie hamburger. Hot dog eating champion Joey Chestnut and Takeru Kobayashi will go head-to-head in a Netflix special. Let's see what this is all about. After organizers for Nathan's famous 4th of July hot dog eating contest said Joey Chestnut wouldn't compete this year because of a deal with a rival brand, Netflix swiftly announced a new hot dog eating competition that will feature Chestnut and his fiercest rival. Chestnut, a 6-time hot dog eating champion, will face off with his frequent Nathan's competitor, Takehiro Kobayashi, in a live Netflix special on September 2nd, the streamer announced. Question: I know both these names. In fact, I might say that these are the only two competitive food eating names that I've ever heard. Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi. Who's better? You guys have any idea? I have no idea. Like, is one of them decidedly better? Like, do they go head to head all the time for the last 10 years, and every year it's Kobayashi or every year it's Joey Chestnut? Who's better? Is there one that's better? Have they ever gone head to head before? I'm intrigued, if not completely repulsed, by the idea of watching someone just eat the hot dogs. I can't do the hot dogs. Look, again, this goes back to where I'm from. I'm from Chicago, okay? We have a certain degree of reverence for the hot dog. The hot dog is not something that you dunk in water and hork down your throat. The hot dog has a whole bunch of shit on there, and it's delicious. It's got onions, it's got cheese, it's got diced peppers, it's got tomato, it's got mustard, it's on a sesame seed bun, it's got sport peppers and celery salt. It is delicious. You enjoy it. You eat it like a meal. Maybe you eat 2 or 3 of them like a meal, but that's what it is. It's a white trash burrito. Ethnic people have been eating these quick to go lunches with, as burritos, and over time the burritos got more and more elaborate. Well, my idea of a hot dog is a pretty elaborate hot dog. So whenever I see these people with just some skanky ass dog in some gross bun, and they're dipping it in water, and it's gross, very unappetizing. Oh my God. So who's better? Who's better? Kobayashi or I don't know. I'll watch it. Why not? I got nothing better to do on September the 2nd. You know what the fucked up thing about that is that that's obviously a joke. Like, I could possibly know what's going on September 2nd. But knowing my life, it's safe to assume I've got nothing going on September the 2nd. So I'll be watching that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Big Story Variety yesterday talked about this. I thought this is interesting, and this is another, I call myself the Gen expert, and this is certainly an important thing from the Gen X experience. You guys remember the Blair Witch Project? The Blair Witch Project. Blair Witch Project is awesome. It is awesome, and I can tell you. I can tell you it's awesome because just a couple of weeks ago, I rewatched it with my 15-year-old just to see, I want to see if it holds up. It was made in 1999. And my 15-year-old, he loves horror, and, so he's got a snooty kind of attitude about it. So we watched Blair Witch Project. It was great. We loved it. I hadn't seen it in like 20 years. I'm like, man, even though I knew the ending, it was still really scary. And it was still creepy, and it was done so well. And he, seeing it for the first time, he's seen all kinds of found footage productions. The found footage is its own genre now. Not when Blair Witch. Blair Witch was like the first found footage thing I'd ever heard of. And that was part of the appeal. It was interesting. It was new. It was unique. So my 15-year-old, who is, not blown away by the aspect that this is found footage and this is a new thing. He understands found footage. He understands it's all pretend. He still thought it was an incredibly good movie. So the Blair Witch Project was made for $35,000 back in the late 90s. $35,000. Would go on to make hundreds of millions. Remember how it was made. It was made in a very interesting way. Here's how Blair Witch was made. The producers, couple of film school guys. The producers cast unknown. These were unknown people. These were totally they still are the stars of the Blair Witch. They were unknown. Cast these unknown college actors to portray these roles. And the instructions to these actors were, here's all your equipment. You need this equipment. You are filmmakers, college filmmakers, making a documentary about a witch who lives in the woods and blah, blah, blah. And they just let them out. They dropped them off in the middle of the woods and they just filmed everything. And they came back a couple of days later. And then they went into the editing bay and they created this whole thing. But that was like months and months and possibly even years before this movie came out. So all of these people, by the way, the stars of the movie, the 3 or 4 main stars, they had to sign something that said they could never tell anybody that they were in this movie because the whole idea was that these people will have been dead. The stars of this movie are supposed to be dead because this is found footage of how they died. So these actresses, they couldn't take other roles. They signed all of these crazy things with these non-Hollywood independent filmmakers at the time. And again, there was a $35,000 budget. They probably all made a couple of $100 each. And then they went back to their lives. They couldn't really do, they were forbidden from doing anything until the movie was released, until it was like 6 months after the film was released. There was some weird thing, but they were not allowed to appear in anything else. So even though they were all actors, they couldn't do anything. So a couple of years went by and they're like, we can't do anything because we did this stupid movie for $500. So of course the movie comes out and it explodes. And these are all newcomers. And who are these people? And oh, are they really? No, they're actually filmmakers. They're dead. So they couldn't even in the beginning come out and do promotion for it, which would have helped their careers. These were young actors. They're suddenly on. They just did an independent film where they got dropped in the woods a couple of years ago. And now suddenly it's at the Cannes Film Festival and the Academy Awards are, happening and everybody's being talked about, but they can't do anything. They can't promote it because they're supposed to be dead. So they were completely hidden. Anyway, now we are 25 years later or whatever it is here from the Blair Witch situation. And these actors are still like, that movie ruined our career. We made $500. Nobody would hire us. The Blair Witch Project actors call out reprehensible behavior by the film's producers after missing out on profits for decades. They have a warning to other independent film actors. Don't do what we did. They got nothing. This thing cost $35,000 to make. It made over, where is it? $35,000 budget. It's the most profitable independent film in history. And yet Donahue was still puttering at her temp job in 2024. Okay, what did it make? There's a number here that says what it made. Like $500 million. Let's just put it there. On $35,000, this movie ended up making like $500 million. I got to let the dog out. And none of these 3 actors whose entire lives were placed on blocks for like 3 years while they figured out how they were going to promote this film. These people have never gotten anything. Just out of pure human decency, you give them a couple million each. We're talking about $500 million. They've got nothing. And they're not suing. Hold on, I'll be right back. Wait, my foot is stuck. God damn it. Oh, all right, you're going out. Going out now. Come on. Come on, move. Here, go. Let's go. Sorry, you guys. Oh, shit. How did I turn off the camera? Sorry about that. All right, now we're just going to have to put up with her screaming and barking and all that shit for the next however long. It's already 2:00. Oh, my God. Maybe that's why she's going nuts. She knows 2:00 is around the time she gets her walk. Where were we? What were we talking about? Okay, so anyway, they're not complaining, they're not suing or anything like that, but they are giving a big long interview to Variety about how, hey, young actors out there, just be careful. Be careful what you sign, and that would suck. I mean, again, this is just me. If I'm that guy, Eduardo Sanchez or whatever I think the guy's name is, if I'm that guy, and my $35,000 investment was returned at $500 million, I am taking care of the 3 people I dropped in the woods. I just am. I'm like to the tune of millions, like multiple million. I've got 500 million. Give each of them $5 million, right? Just hey man, that was great. Look at that. Look at this ride we went on. Now I know you didn't have any career of anything to speak. Heather Donahue is the girl. Boy, she didn't do nothing. She did she did nothing. She was like the most famous actress in the world for like 6 months around 1999, and she did nothing. No other roles. All right, let's keep going. Blair Witch. Oh, here's another great story here. A lot of people in this part of the woods. This is not as big a thing up north or in the Midwest, but certainly here in Texas, it's a big thing. And it's also a big thing in other parts of the country. The Alamo Draft House. A couple of weeks back, we were all rocked here in Dallas when we found out that a couple of our more favorite Alamo Draft House locations would be closing down due to problems with the parent company, a company by the name of Altamont Capital, which was basically taking a bath on the Alamo Draft Houses post-COVID and all of that. Alamo Draft House is one of the originators of the concept that you go to a movie and you can get a full meal, comfortable chairs, you can get drinks, a full bar. Alamo Draft House. It was really. Now there's a lot of places that do that, but I remember Alamo Draft House being like the first that I'd ever gone to that was like that. Now, of course, you got the studio movie grills and all that. Wonderfully. Look, man, I started going to movies in single buildings that had one theater. It was like a building and it had one theater, and everybody's chain smoking. Like it was normal for in the middle of the movie for something to break and and then you'd have to sit there. Trust me when I tell you what the Alamo Draft House has done and what all of these new theater experiences have done needed to be done. They were taking us for granted. And then suddenly we all got like theater rooms in our houses. And suddenly they're like, no, ours are nice too. That's when they started making nice theaters. I'll tell you, man, a movie theater in 1991, garbage, the worst. They didn't care. Seats were torn. They're like, yeah, where else you going to go to see something of this quality? And it's like, well, flat screens are a couple of years away and we're all going to have media rooms. So fuck you, theater owner. You better upholster these seats. Now theaters are nice because they have to be. Anyway, Alamo Draft House went out of business, closed them all down. But guess what? Riding to the rescue, Sony has swooped in and purchased Alamo Draft House from Altamont Capital. No word on what that means for the announced closings of Alamo Draft Houses here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but it's good news overall for the company, and that Sony. It also needs to be mentioned. I mean, this is a massive thing in Hollywood. Here's why. For the last 100 years of Hollywood, aside from the very beginning of the Hollywood studio system, there has been separation between the producers, which would be the studios, and the demonstrators, which would be the theaters. There has been it was considered in the 1940s, I think is when the rule came down. It was a monopoly for the studios to also own the theaters. So the theaters were kept separate and you could, make your movies. Anyway, but that's why there's like all these theaters around, these old-timey theaters called the Paramount or the United Artists, because back before they made this rule, you could. And so the studios that made the film also owned the theater that showed the film that they just made. And then it was deemed a monopoly. Well, that was also thrown away. That's gone now. I think Trump did something in 2018 or something. So that's gone. So now that's not a thing anymore. And that's why it's interesting that Sony has purchased Alamo Draft House. Sony, who makes a whole bunch. So obviously Alamo Draft Houses are going to play Sony films. They're going to give Sony films. This also gets us into a situation where studios are now able to go to war with each other. If Warner Brothers has some big summer movie and they want to get, into a certain market, they might not have access to screens now if Sony, their chief competitor, is who's running the theaters in those markets. So it's a very interesting thing happening inside Hollywood now, where exhibitors, that's what it is, where creators and studios are now also becoming the exhibitors once again, like it was back in 1915. Sony buys the Alamo Draft House from Altamont Capital. Howard Feynman has died. Howard Feynman was a political guy. I don't know what his deal was. Howard Feynman, he died. He was 80-something years old. A lot of news people are like, oh, he was so wonderful. I don't know. I know his name. When I saw his face, I went, oh, I know that guy. Here's what I'll say. Here's probably the best thing I can say about someone like Howard Feynman. He's a political journalist. He's been around forever. And when I saw his face, I didn't immediately go, that guy fucking sucks. That's like the best thing. When I saw Howard Feynman's face, I was like, oh yeah, I know that guy. He's never unnecessarily stirred me up or said something that was absolute bullshit or obviously been in the tank for any one side over the other. He seems like a straight shooter. It's like the best you can say about somebody, I guess. And this, if you're a journalist in this day and age. All right, there you go, Howard Feynman. What else do we have here? Okay, we'll finish up with this. I want to talk a little bit about this because I'm gonna do an independent video of this. I've got like 3 videos that are half done, and I'm like, okay, I need to finish. Anyway, but this one I might be doing later today, just because it's timely, and I want to take advantage of this new. There is a new documentary that has debuted today on Hulu. And for someone like me, a Gen expert, it is of great interest to me, the subject matter of this documentary. It's called The Brat Pack. The Brat Pack. Andrew McCarthy? Yeah, there we go. Did you see me? I did a Mitch McConnell right there, or maybe Biden, whichever, take your pick. I just froze. I was like, Andrew, not Andrew Stevens. That's Andrew McCarthy. Brat Packer. Andrew McCarthy is a Brat Packer. Andrew McCarthy has turned director and writer. And he decided that after years and years, and this is why this is so fascinating, because I think that if you're like me and you think of the Brat Packers, you think, oh, they've probably been thick as thieves for 40 years. I'm sure they go to each other's daughters' high school graduations, and they're always Saturday nights in the backyard with one another. I'm sure. No, that ain't the case at all. As we learned, Andrew McCarthy's like, hey, I ain't seen you in 30 years. Like, these people are not because that's the magic of Hollywood. The magic of Hollywood. These people are friends, and we want to be one of their friends, and we want to be in their friends group. Nah. But, they were turned into this thing, the Brat Pack in Hollywood. Young actors took America by storm. Much fueled, as I said earlier in today's show, much of it fueled by the success, the culture-defining success of John Hughes films. But John Hughes films were not Brat Pack films. They are absolutely not. I will die on this hill. Anyway, it's on Hulu. It debuted today. I guess it's out there today. I will be watching it tonight, and then I will be making the video. Or maybe if I watch the video, I don't know. It seems like something I want to enjoy, so I'm probably going to end up watching it tonight. But here, let's check this out. This is, I guess this is a trailer. I have not seen this yet, but let's check this out. Okay, so this is the trailer for the new Brat Pack documentary on Hulu. It premiered today on Hulu. Hulu. Let's watch it.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. On June 10, 1985, New York Magazine published Hollywood's Brat Pack. I just remember seeing that cover and thinking, oh. From then on, my career and the career of everyone who was involved was branded as the Brat Pack.
I'm really sorry that article had to come out.
I've never talked to anybody about what that was like. So I thought it might be interesting to try and contact everyone who was in the Brat Pack. Hey, Emilio Estevez. This is Andrew McCarthy calling you. Hey, Allie. Hey, Demi. Hey, Molly. Let's call Rob. Hello. Judd? Me? You around? You were not interested in talking about the Brat Pack for years.
I turned everything down.
How come you're talking to me?
Because you called me. It was time that we clear the air on a couple of things.
I love your stuff, Bob. Hey, thank you. I hated the Brat Pack for decades.
What a disaster.
If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you?
It really irritated me. They said, what's more important to you, the movie or your life? And I said, the movie, Andrew.
Have you talked to the others? The others, like, again, it feels like a cult or something.
Yeah.
Why did we take it as an offense?
Well,
As opposed to like
the brat.
because we were young.
We were
If we're-
afraid we were brats, you know? Are you in the Brat Pack?
I'm Brat Pack adjacent.
That's what I was saying.
I am not in the Brat Pack.
Crush on you back in the day?
You did not, Andrew.
Okay, I need to pause right there because that's the example that I use. I haven't seen this yet. I just snatched it before we went on. John Cryer. That was John Cryer. He's like, I was not in the Brat Pack. Yes, he played Ducky in a John Hughes film, but John Cryer was not a Brat Packer. Stop trying to make him a Brat Packer.
You did not.
Being in the
That's what I was saying.
I am not in the Brat Pack.
Crush on you back in the day?
You did not, Andrew. No, you did not.
Being in the Brat Pack not only changed all of our lives, it changed what entertainment is. I mean, I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. There were moments.
We could have. 1985? I think we could have.
So what are you filming?
Oh, we're just doing this documentary.
What's it about?
Ancient history.
All right, there you go. That looks great. That looks great. I wasn't sure if it was going to be more of a clip-based documentary, if it was going to be interviews. Looks like it's maybe a little bit of both. I would like to make one adjustment there. I couldn't tell exactly who Andrew McCarthy was sitting on the picnic bench with, or not the picnic bench, but the park bench with, who he described as being Brat Pack adjacent. Like, I think it was a woman and she said, well, I'm Brat Pack adjacent. If that was Mayor Winningham, she's not Brat Pack adjacent. She's in my eyes, Mayor Winningham is a legit Brat Packer simply because of her main role in St. Elmo's Fire. St. Elmo's Fire is the ground zero Brat Pack film. That's the one that, you can extrapolate whatever you want from there. It's not a John Hughes film. St. Elmo's Fire. The Brat Packers were not kids. John Hughes made movies about kids, high school kids, high school parties, that kind of thing. The Brat Pack was about young adults. The Brat Pack was about the bar scene. The Brat Pack was about partying and doing drugs and sex and having all of this money. That's what the Brat Pack was about. That's very different than the wholesomeness of John Hughes and all of those movies. In fact, I imagine that there was some part of John Hughes who, when he made Home Alone, was, a desire to get back to the wholesomeness that, his brand was associated with. Because everybody just kind of, and it also has to be mentioned, the Brat Packers got in a lot of trouble. It was not always, oh, isn't this fun? No, the Brat Packers were always getting busted for drugs, and they were sleeping with each other's women, and there were scandals, and Rob Lowe's with an underage girl, and Robert Downey Jr. The Brat Pack was a mess. And that was not the John Hughes brand. John Hughes was like, no, yes, these are a bunch of people who are in my movies, but that is not my brand. Brat Pack brand was kind of a train wreck. Yeah, everybody's sleeping with everybody, man. You had, okay, so is it, all right, let me see if I get this right. There were like these really, really serious relationships. And it was Emilio Estevez and Demi Moore. They were very serious. But then there was also Kiefer Sutherland, who was with Demi Moore before. Kiefer Sutherland dumped Demi Moore for this unknown person, and nobody really understands it. So Demi Moore not having anybody, all of a sudden Emilio Estevez sweeps in, and Demi Moore becomes Demi Moore and Emilio Estevez. And remember, Kiefer Sutherland, he's still got a girlfriend because Kiefer Sutherland's Kiefer Sutherland. He's Lost Boys and all that kind of stuff. He's got some swag. Kiefer Sutherland, he's just running around with some girl that nobody knows. That girl, of course, becomes Julia Roberts. So I do believe Julia Roberts is Brat Pack adjacent because she wasn't famous yet. But she was partying with all those guys. Then you got Rob Lowe. So who is the core of the Brat Pack? Let me see if I can. And this is going to be, I'm going to work out some of the details of the video. I'm going to do my own independent video on this. Brat Pack. Anthony Michael Hall. Let me just see this. Let me just put Brat Pack in Bing and let's see the pictures that they show us. And then we'll just go through some of these pictures. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's see. Okay. I guess as I look at these pictures now, I guess there are two distinct Brat Pack eras, and one of them may in fact be heavily attached to John Hughes, because there's like young Brat Pack, and then there's like just sloppy Brat Pack. I tend to be more interested in sloppy Brat Pack. All right, what is this here? All right, let's look at this. All right, this is too small, but this appears to be the cast of St. Elmo's Fire, which this is the first picture that comes up when you put Brat Pack. I think that's a good indicator that every single one of these people here are cornerstone Brat Packers. So who do we got? Left or right? We got Rob Lowe, Brat Pack, he's in. We got Ali Sheedy. Happy birthday, Ali Sheedy. Brat Pack, she's in. We got Demi Moore, absolutely Brat Pack, she's in. Emilio Estevez, absolutely Brat Pack, he's in. Mare Winningham, absolutely Brat Pack, she's in. Judd Nelson, absolutely Brat Pack, he's in. And Andrew McCarthy, absolutely Brat Pack, he is in. So let's just start with the cast of St. Elmo's Fire as a baseline, as being people who are in the Brat Pack. All right, now let's move on. Let's see who else we got here. All right, Andrew McCarthy, he is in the Brat Pack. We've already established that. Is this Pretty in Pink? Is this Pretty? Yes, this is Pretty in Pink. Andrew McCarthy is in the Brat Pack. Molly Ringwald, although she was not in St. Elmo's Fire, is absolutely in the Brat Pack. She was the queen of the early Brat Pack. Of course, she would be usurped by Queen Demi when in the sloppy Brat Pack era, Demi Moore would rise up to be the queen of the sloppy Brat Pack. But in the beginning Brat Pack, there was no bigger queen than Molly Ringwald. All right, now, of course, you got John Cryer. That's Ducky. He is not in the Brat Pack. He's not a Brat Packer. He's not. All right, what do we got here? Oh, we got Ali Sheedy. This is good. We got Ali Sheedy. Look at Ali Sheedy. I was wondering what she looks like today. I could date that, but doesn't she still give off lesbian vibes? Huh? Right? Like Demi Moore looks like a straight heterosexual woman. She's still trying to be sexy and all this. Ali Sheedy looks like she's got cats and works at the library. But still attractive. I've always thought Ali Sheedy was adorable. I don't know who that is. Oh yes, I do. That's Andrew McCarthy. So I don't know who that is. All right, so Brat Pack, Ali Sheedy, absolutely. Brat Pack, Andrew McCarthy, absolutely. Brat Pack, Demi Moore, absolutely. There's Demi Moore. Okay, so now we get into these guys. Like who is this? Like C. Thomas Howell or somebody like this? Maxwell Caulfield? No, not Brat Pack. Not Brat Pack. Matthew Caulfield or C. Thomas Howell. I don't care if you were in The Outsiders with Rob Lowe and Amelia. Not in the Brat Pack. Not in the Brat Pack. Andrew McCarthy, Brat Pack. All right, here we go. This is again from St. Elmo's Fire. These are all core Brat Packers. Andrew McCarthy, Mare Winningham, Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, Ali Sheedy. There you go. That's it. That's peak Brat Pack right there. John Cryer is not Brat Pack. See, there he is. He's not. All right, what are we doing here? Okay, now this is, oh, I like this. This is a nice little mix of early Brat Pack and sloppy Brat Pack. I don't know who this is. If I'm being honest, I don't know who that is. Is that? I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. Molly Ringwald is absolutely Brat Pack. Judd Nelson is absolutely Brat Pack. John Cryer, we've already said he's not. Anthony Michael Hall is absolutely Brat Pack. If Molly Ringwald was the queen of the early Brat Pack, then Anthony Michael Hall is the emperor of the early Brat Pack. Now, he would be passed up by any number of guys who would, hold that title. Rob Lowe, Kiefer Sutherland, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen even. Breakfast Club. Okay, this is good. Are these all Brat Pack people on Breakfast Club? These are all Brat Packers. The cast of Breakfast Club, all Brat Packers. Keep going. Ali Sheedy, Anthony Michael Hall, and Judd Nelson. Probably, look at them, probably like 1985. They're on all kinds of drugs. The rest of us are worried about fooling our parents. These people are worried about fooling the LA Times. All right. Look at this picture. All right, look at that. Look at these guys. They're like 20 years old. They're probably not even old enough to be in this club. Probably in some Studio 54. It's Rob Lowe and Andrew McCarthy. My God. You know how easy it was for them to get women back then? You know how easy it was for Rob Lowe? Don't even. Who else? Anybody else? Andrew McCarthy. There they are. All right, that's it. That's really all I got or that I want to share. I'll be watching this tonight, and then I'll probably be making some kind of a video about it. Barney says Robert Downey Jr. Yes, absolutely. Robert Downey Jr. is absolutely Brat Pack. Robert Downey Jr. is one of the kings of the sloppy Brat Pack. Another of the great Brat Pack films that if you appeared in this film, you are absolutely a Brat Packer. Now, I used St. Elmo's Fire as an example, but of course, Robert Downey as Jules in Less Than Zero. That's an important cornerstone film in the Brat Pack world. Less Than Zero. So yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is absolutely a Brat Packer. James Spader is absolutely a Brat Packer. That's a good one. These are ones we haven't named. Anthony Michael Hall, Smee says, was a Hughes boy though. Yeah, John Hughes produced members of the Brat Packs. What Brat Pack? And John Hughes in his films of the early and mid 80s were instrumental in defining what the Brat Pack was. But John Hughes is not Brat Pack. John Hughes was a filmmaker who created a genre of films. It just so happens that the people who starred in his movies would go on later in life to work together in a bunch of other movies that weren't John Hughes products. The Less Than Zeros and the John Hughes is not Brat Pack. But Brat Pack is very John Hughes. Isn't that the way to say it? That's the way to say it. That's the way to say it. Who else do we got? We got any other minor? Like who would be like a questionable Brat Packer? Trying to think if there's anybody else that like is in that. I think we got it all covered. All right, folks, that's going to do it. That's the show for today. Look at us, 2:37. We went a full 30 minutes late on this one. I'm going to be back tomorrow at noon for another high noon. We do this every day, hot topics, current events, whatever it is you need to know. I'm going to give it to you here in a 2-hour stream of consciousness. I'm just a blowhard. I'm just a narcissist. I'm a middle-aged narcissistic blowhard who every day at noon sits here and takes it upon myself to tell you about the world that we're all experiencing simultaneously. It's a beautiful thing, but at the end of it all, I'm exhausted. And now it's time for me to take the dog for a walk.